Hello, everybody, and welcome to Costog Questions. We're finally back. Sorry for the long delay in having a full episode of anything. I said that I was going to do a bunch of stuff over the holidays, and then that didn't happen at all because, life happens. But we're back. As you'll notice here, Sororio Days is not joining us this episode. However, I believe she is hanging out in chat. She's on a bit of a hiatus until after Katsucon, so she will be back with us after Katsu. I can't say I know when the next episode's going to be after Katsu that she'll be on, but sometime after Katsu, Sarah will be back on. So those of you who have not tuned into this show yet, it's a pretty simple format. For the first hour of the show, we're going to be digging into kind of a pre-set up topic or that you guys have given us or we have talked about and decided that we were going to dig into. And then after that, for the second hour of the stream, we're going to be answering your questions from chat. So, yeah, during this episode, we got 3 guests here, which is kind of a fun difference. So we're going to start with right below me on the stream with Aara. Why don't you introduce yourself and let the people know who you are?
Hey guys, I'm Aara, or Aara Lee, as all my handles say. And I'm a cosplayer that really likes to go to conventions and have a good time. So
Nailed it.
Yeah, nailed my intro.
Oh, I forgot to mute freaking Facebook sounds and stuff. Hold on, let me do that so you guys don't get Facebook beeps during this entire show. No one wants that. No one wants that. Okay, done that. Sorry. Okay, I forget who picks next. I think David, you're going last. So Erin, you're up next.
Oh boy, hello. I'm Erin. I go by Erin Mac Daddy. Yeah, I think. I know. Don't laugh at me. I'm
Daddy
a cosplayer. Oh, please don't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a cosplayer. I've been cosplaying since like 2012, probably.
Oh.
I don't know that I upload frequently enough.
Whatever.
Ooh.
Got a renegade.
Yeah, I used to run a cosplay club. I've run a couple conventions. Fun stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, in the bottom right corner is David.
I'm David. Go by David Sohno /Sohno Photos on Instagram and Facebook. Cosplay portrait photographer. Not much to say. My intro. I just do a lot of photography.
Eloquent. How long have you guys been doing this for? Because you didn't really touch on that. Aara, do you want to start there?
Yeah, I started cosplaying early 2009, so I've been doing this for over a decade.
Oh, God. And then Erin?
2012, so not a full decade, but yeah. Close.
And David, how long have you been shooting photos?
Shooting photos 4 years. But I've been going to conventions for, I think 2011 was my first one, so it's coming up on 9 years.
So
Anime Boston was my first con.
Collectively, we've been in the game for a fair amount of time. I started going to conventions in 2005 and started doing cosplay photography around 2012. So got a lot of time in here collectively. Before we jump into the main section of this, want to kind of get the main housekeeping stuff out of the way. This format, this is only our 5th episode with this. If you got thoughts and ideas for this, I'd love to hear it. Always trying to find ways to change this up and keep it interesting. So yeah, please let me know if you have any thoughts. Also, if you're enjoying the streams here, please consider giving a sub if you have the ability to, or if you're feeling super generous, donating to the stream. There's a link underneath as well if you're looking for that. That said, this is the spiel that I'm sure everyone's heard before. If you have Amazon Prime, that means you have Twitch Prime, which gives you 1 free sub per month to donate to whatever streamer you'd like. We'd love it if it were here. That would be amazing. However, for the love of God, use it. It's free money Amazon's giving you to take towards any streamer that you want. And if you're
I
not
subbed
using
to
it,
Andrew with my dad's Amazon Prime account.
yes,
You can be anybody's.
toss a sub to your Twitcher, please.
So, dude,
I didn't
Oh,
make.
wow.
I
How long were
I
you-
did not make that up. I did not make that up. So I can take no credit for it.
I
But
bet you did.
no, I did not. That was. I heard that from the Dragon Feeny stream, so I did not make that up. Also, yes, you get very cute emotes, as Alligator in chat has noted. You get the Vontog love, Vontog ugh, Vontog fujo, Vontog doggo, and the eponymous Vontog Dutch angle emote. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. If your parents have Amazon Prime and and they're not frequenting Twitch, because if your parents are frequenting Twitch,
your
then
parents, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters.
just log them into Twitch,
link
make
it.
an account for them, and sub to your favorite streamers.
Or just link your account to theirs.
My parents may or may not be subbing to me. You know, they weren't using it. Okay, let's dig into the main part of this Q&A here. Oh man, well, thank you, J Laughs. Hopefully that's even remotely pronounced right. Thank you so much for that Twitch Prime sub and showing people how it's done. Mallow says hack your senpai's account so he notices you. Yeah, do that. Okay, let's jump into the main section of this here, which is going to be we just finished a decade, right? So it's time for us to kind of do a bit of a look back as well as a look forward. A lot has changed over the past decade in terms of cosplay conventions and just the whole cosplay scene as a whole, and frankly nerddom in general. Nerddom has switched from seemingly at the start of the decade still being kind of frowned upon to kind of in a weird way becoming like cool in a roundabout way.
Yeah. It exploded.
Yeah, and goodness knows there's more change to come. So I kind of wanted to split this up into a couple different sections. And first, I think I want to really explore conventions. So kind of first, I wanted to talk about where conventions have grown and changed over the past decade, kind of where they started and where we feel like they've ended up landing now. And then once we kind of gone over that, I want to talk about how we'd like to see them change, improve, keep the interest of old fans, as well as continue to draw in new people. So let's dig into that. So
are we sticking straight with like cosplay cons, or I mean like anime conventions, or like Comic-Con?
I think
MagFest and stuff like that.
I think we can talk kind of just in more in general terms, but I think probably most of us are really focused on anime conventions, or you know, that's where most cosplaying happens outside of those conventions, but I think that's really the focus. Although if you have thoughts on those, please feel free to share those. So I've been talking for a while, so does someone want to start us off in this, kind of like maybe taking us back in time to your early conventions and how you feel some of the major differences between then and now?
Yeah, I can get us rolling.
Awesome.
So I've been going to cons since 2009, and that actually includes Can you guys hear me? My mic's doing like a...
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay. Never mind, Aaron. Someone else get us started. I'm like having technical difficulties right as I went to talk.
Killing it.
Oh, wait, hang on. Yeah, I can't hear you guys.
The stream's about our technical difficulties.
You're doing well.
Is it working?
Yeah, I think I'm good now.
Okay.
Okay.
Well then,
Okay, cool.
then feel free. Go ahead, Aara.
I can't get started. I don't know why I just suddenly stopped with audio. I can't hear you guys.
Oh, well, while you figured that out, does someone else want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, I'll say something.
Awesome. Go for it.
So as far as like local con scenes, like obviously there's like travel cons, but like I've noticed like in Rochester, like when I first started, it was kind of like there's a very limited number of events, and kind of whatever there was, you were going to it because that was like your only opportunity to see people. And I feel like there's definitely more now, and a lot of the events that people have kind of been less than thrilled with, people now have other options, so they've been kind of not, you know, investing in those, and things are kind of changing up around here. So I think that's good. Definitely like more options, and not just having to go to things just because it's there.
Yeah, I can echo that sentiment for the Midwest, where 10 years ago, I think was towards the start of kind of more smaller conventions really gaining a footing, and kind of expanding. Because I feel like in terms of anime cons in the Midwest, it used to be like you went to Anime Central and then there really wasn't much else out there. Especially when I was first going to cons, but maybe this was a bit of ignorance on my part at the time, but it felt like around the early 2010s is when I started noticing more cons starting to sprout up. And then like, even just if these cons existed before 2010, which some of them did, they were just so small that they kind of lacked that appeal where I was like, I don't know if I want to go to a con that's like 200 people.
Yeah.
But now there's kind of an abundance of choices. And I mean, there's definitely
all over the place now.
Yeah.
I remember 2009, my first anime con was Toricon at RIT. So it was a college con, but it was still a super magical experience. I think that sometimes when we look back at cons and we say that perhaps they've changed for the worst, I think we're kind of seeing through like nostalgia glasses.
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah.
Because there's nothing that can beat like those first steps that you take on the con floor, and you finally feel that energy of your people.
It's like so magical.
Yeah, like you see the cosplayers and you spot your favorite characters. You see merch that is meaningful to you. Like you're not just like window shopping for Naruto necklaces and Hot Topic. Like you have, I don't know. There's just that excitement and that like vibrating energy that you can't beat with your first cons. So there's that.
To echo that, I don't disagree with you at all from that sentiment. I think to lean into your merch point of view, I think a big part of the convention that used to be so amazing to me was the dealer's hall. Mm-hmm. And I think that's lost a lot of mystique for me over the years because of the prevalence of the internet. Like it used to be the case where like you couldn't just go in and like, I felt like when I was at a con, like, holy shit, there's all this stuff that I could never like obtain. Like all these amazing things are now in front of me. And now most of the stuff that I see at cons is like, oh, I could probably buy that cheaper on the internet. Like,
with Amazon. And, and also even becoming a cosplayer, I start to budget my money a little bit more wisely. And I might say like, should I buy this merch or should I save it for investing in, you know, materials and things like that? Yeah. But definitely the magical con scene in 2009. I went to college cons, things like that, back when I needed to carpool with my mom.
Such is the way of things. Yep.
Oh, my mom used to drop me off. She used to be like, all right, guys, have fun. And then, like, I remember I cosplayed Simone from Gurren Lagann. And so I was, like, open chest bound. And I had a blue t-shirt on under his jacket. And I remember my mom, she looked at me and she's like, I got a question. And I was like, what? She's like, are you taking that shirt off when you get to the con? I was like, how did you know? And she's like, you made everything else from scratch. And then you put on a cotton t-shirt. Like, that doesn't go with the costume. I was like, oh my God, I'm totally going shirtless to this con, Mom. And she was like, have fun. And I was like, yeah, pierce the heavens. Woo! Anyway, no, it was a good time. I like early con scenes. I like local cons. I think they're really They're really cute. They're really enjoyable. Low key, not a lot, no high stakes, no travel costs.
Yeah.
And you can still do really awesome on location shoots at local cons. There's not
Mhm.
that pressure to attend awesome events. Travel cons, though, I started traveling to out of state cons pretty abruptly. Like I turned 16 and got my license, and I was like, "Bye, mom and dad. I'm going to Baltimore, 8 hours away." And they were like, "Okay, be safe. You know,
Wow, your
don't talk to
parents were so much
strangers."
more chill than mine were.
I
I'll tell you
was,
that much.
I was.
Our parents were kind of the same way. Me and Nicole were just like, yeah, we're gonna go to. I think actually Otakon was like
Yeah,
far
Otakon was my
from,
first
you know,
travel
Parents
con.
were just like, be safe, I guess.
yeah. I was like
Have
16
fun.
and went to Otakon, drove 8 hours, and my mom was basically like, my parents, I don't know, they traveled overseas for 10 years, and so my mom was like, travel doesn't concern her, and she's not afraid for my safety. It was fun. It was a good time. Otakon
Yeah.
and Anime Boston. Those were my
Oh,
first
yeah, Anime
my
Boston.
first big cons. Anime Boston, back when it used to have like a dance scene before the terrorist threats and the drugs.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah,
This. Oh, go ahead, David.
No, I was just gonna say AB has changed because I had one in 2011, and it's changed so much.
I
So
don't blame them necessarily, but
Oh, for sure. I mean, well, it got bigger too, and it's just
yeah.
like people in the high. Like honestly, they need a bigger space, but
so that I think is an interesting topic because I think back in the early 2010s, like that was when there were popular cons, but that was like the first start of like peak popularity in cons. Where I think like cons used to be almost more of a wild wild west where
Yeah.
like it almost felt like there was no rules in early 2010 cons, and I've noticed over the years it's since then things have calmed down a lot, and I feel like rules have gotten stricter, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if that's something that just has been me noticing thing, or is that something you guys feel has happened as well?
I think they established important foundational rules for safety, etiquette, human interaction, so that, like you said, it wasn't the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
because for a
any
while
of
it was.
yeah, I don't think any of those rules have, and I'm talking even just like badge entry. It's a safety thing. Props checking being particularly strict. It's a safety thing. All that stuff I think has just been a perk.
Yeah. An interesting one, and this one might be an Anime Central specific thing that I've noticed. That's was my first con, and I've gone to it pretty much every year since my first time. And I have vivid memories of like around 2010, it being the amount of ambulances that came to that con was a very high amount. And
Otakon people used to faint from the heat.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I that was not the case at ASEN. It was very much alcohol based problems.
It was like a college frat party,
yeah,
but
and-
amplified and
and
nerdy.
Just nerds.
totally and
Yeah.
anecdotally, I've noticed like significantly less ambulances over the course of the past like 10 years.
Allison
It's been a
said hourly ambulances.
Oh, it used to be. Yeah, no,
you
totally.
guys are like
Oh,
dabbing and like Carmel Danson to the sirens, like the lights.
No, it used to be. It used to be at ASEN that like just the expectation was like past like 7-8 o'clock at night. Just like there was always an ambulance outside. It was just kind of like a constant rotation of ambulances, and that has kind of stopped. Like there's still the occasional ambulance, but like I feel like it's really that's kind of disappeared. I think I wonder if it's that the space is kind of like part of that Wild West mentality has been removed. And there's less teens discovering alcohol for the very first time. at a convention where their parents aren't at, so they have no idea of their limits.
Hey,
I
they
discovered alcohol
Yeah.
for the first time at Otakon.
Aaron, go
I
ahead.
wasn't
God.
like, you know, taken away in a Wii U wagon to like the hospital though. I was totally fine.
Aaron, go ahead.
They can't be getting drunk and passing out if they've got 8 costume changes the next day and like 10 photo shoots.
Right? That's what most people are trying to cram so much in.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've noticed over the years has been and this being my local con, so I have a better understanding of its span of the course of this decade, is a tapering off of the dance / rave scene.
Oh, I know. That bums me out.
Yeah, raves are fun, but those,
Yeah.
those totally like.
The dance scene, especially, I guess it depends demographically where you're located. Otakon's dance scene is so lit. I don't know if it's just that like the city brings those people to that location and that event, but I remember the Otakon like breakdancing scene being the center of attention, the middle of the con floor, and because of its when it was originally by the harbor, you had the multi-leveled like buildings, so you could
Mhm.
look down at the center. Oh,
Oh
it's
yeah,
so
like
cool.
right in that. Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
was cool.
Oh my
I
god,
love that. I miss that building,
dancing.
dude.
I miss that
I
building.
miss that building too.
Like people would just have their like Bluetooth speakers, their little, like boom boxes, like around
I
the
don't think
event.
there were Bluetooth speakers in the early 2010s.
Okay, I don't recall. I'm projecting to the past what we have now. Just like you'd have music around you, and this was before I had experienced MagFest, which completely swept me away for the same reason. But just the energy of music and dancing at an event is so necessary for me to feel super hyped. And I loved that everywhere I went. Kineticon, like right outside those doors between the hotel and the convention center, all the break dancers, the crowd, the cheering, like people clapping in unison. That really gets me going. I love the dance scene. So raves for me were such a good time. Anime Boston, YetiCon, you name it. I'll always find a rave.
It's interesting, but like overall, at least in the Midwest, I know the rave scene is truly changed. Probably like early mid 2010s, like people were going to Anime Central for the rave. Like that was the reason they went to that con. And I like the line for the rave used to be insane, where like you'd have, if you wanted to get in, you had to wait like probably like 2 hours 3 hours before it started to get in at the start. I don't know if you've noticed this being a change on the, like, because you guys mostly are East Coast, if that used to be the situation for you guys too.
I mean,
yeah. I think that the decline in like rave activity was probably in response to like underage entry and drug use and alcohol consumption
Yep.
in Moss.
Yeah, that's what happened to Anime Boston. Because it was a huge deal, and then there was one year where there was a lot of people that like were underage that got drugged, and a lot of people were drinking and underage drinking, and they were just like, yeah. And after that, it was just not the same.
I think raves are difficult to regulate.
Yeah.
Like MagFest, I went to, like, I don't you wouldn't necessarily call them raves, I suppose, but I went to the exciting dance events at like 3 a.m, and they had a very intense and involved security presence, which I loved. In fact, my friends and I were making jokes that we had like our own personal like security guard, which we did. My friend Ellie and I and Victor, like, we're pretty petite people. I'm short, and so
thanks for that.
So we were in the center of the dance group, and there was a mosh pit in the middle, a lot of larger dudes, tall guys and stuff, and this security guard like positioned himself right next to Ellie and I, and he was just shoving like full-grown dudes like back into the mosh pit, like right before impact with us. And it was so funny. He stayed with us for upwards of 2 hours, just hanging out with us and like protecting that space between us dancing and the mosh pit like erupting.
It's very
So I
interesting.
think if you have the security presence, those kinds of environments can be well maintained and safe and fun. But I don't think Anime Boss never had that.
Yeah, Magfest feels like a very different event, purely like almost even remote, just on that musical security side of things. Because like every concert I've been to at an anime con has essentially disallowed or attempted to shut down any type of moshing at concerts, and Magfest has been the only like anime con that's had concerts that they've been like, yeah, go ahead. Have fun.
Yeah.
And they had that's
Yeah.
because they had the hired security for it.
Yes.
So they had this is who I could count with my limited visibility among the bodies. I could see like through shoulders and
Yeah.
like torsos, like 4 dudes, 4 like big security guards, and ours was wearing like a leather vest, and there was this one dude in the mosh pit that was so far gone. He was wearing this bright red t-shirt, and he was just throwing himself against people with like complete abandon. And so I was like shouting. Oh yeah, I was shouting to my friends like, "Listen, our security guard, like, he's my favorite NPC. The red shirt guy, he's the antagonist of the night. Like, we're gonna see this guy, he's gonna get thrown out. Like, he got multiple warnings. Like, they had him by the arms, and they were like, get it together." And so, like, we left,
Damn.
right? We left the rave after a couple hours. We're all like tired and sweaty, and we see the fucking red shirt guy. He's like down the hall. I was like, there he is. He got thrown out too. I knew it. I called it. Our villain of the night. Love him. Hat tip. Anyway, that was so security.
to-
Security is
Red shirt
appreciated.
guy.
I went to Meg with Aara for the first time this year, and I went to the Ska Tune Network concert because I'm a big ska fan. And yeah, they had like a skanking pit, and I was like, this is very reminiscent of like a normal ska concert I would pay to get into. I'm surprised it's at an anime con, and there's like furries and like Undertale cosplayers skanking.
Wait, hang on. Repeat the verb that you just said.
Skank it. That's how you dance to ska music.
Can you
god awful.
demonstrate? No, you're wired in.
I would prefer not to, but it's
Save that for the cons.
yeah.
I'm so sad I wasn't there. All right, next
Picture
year.
like moshing but
So funny.
nerdier.
Oh, I love it already. I'll see you. I'll see you next mag.
Oh yeah.
You can teach me how to skank.
Oh, I
Just
will.
washing in Kiwi.
You know what? Nope. That joke writes itself. So I'm not even gonna go there.
Hey,
You
we're
can't
on
ruin it.
Twitch. We can't.
You gotta let
We
it go,
can't
Andrew.
skank.
It's flown away. Goodbye, Joe.
Yeah.
So
So the con scenes, they're safer, but they're still super fun when you go to the right one.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social media has
Oh,
done a incredible thing in how we've changed how we've attended cons.
I mean, that's also, I think, thanks social media for it exploding in general.
Yeah, I think like social media is probably equal parts connected to the like both the positives and negatives in changing of the con scene. Both connected to their growth and kind of like also connected to a big part of why people say that old cons used to be better. And I think that's an interesting topic to delve into. Do you guys have any primary areas where you think you've seen social media change cons the most?
I don't know if they've changed cons. For me, like anecdotally speaking, I did notice that there was one instance in which I thought social media misrepresented a con, and again, this is just an anecdotal, like just anecdotal evidence, so it could be totally baseless. But I love, and I've always loved cosplay music videos. And it's, I guess, in the same way that I like cosplay photography, it's just, it's so cool to see final products, especially put to music. And so I was watching, and this is like in years past, I haven't been to it in a while, but I was watching music videos about ColossalCon Prime. So it's the one in Ohio, I guess.
I knew you were going to say ColossalCon Prime.
Yeah. And I hate being negative. It's just that it looked like everybody was calling it the Party Con. And it was a lot of footage depicting what looked to be like this awesome resort. I'd never been to Kalahari before. And I was kind of like, I don't know, a little disappointed. I was like, it's like this like tiny outdoor pool. And when I say tiny, it was tiny. Like, wow. It was uncomfortably small. Yeah. And then it was like people posing in bikinis, but again, it was like there wasn't any music playing. Like, so I saw all these CMVs and it was hype music and people dancing. And I'm not even kidding you. There was people dancing in the pool being filmed without any music playing. I was like, what is going on? This isn't fun. What are you dancing to? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were just doing it for the CMV, and I was laughing at myself like, I see. It's like, pretty manicured depiction of the event. But that's when I discovered that I don't like getting wet with chlorinated water, and it grosses me out. And I never went back. I was like, this is skeevy. I've got like the synthetic wig on. I can't even swim. I'm wearing like makeup. How am I supposed to go in the water pool thing? Got these contacts in because I'm dressed like this character. I can't even enjoy myself. So ultimately, I just stripped down and I was like, I'm not even gonna cosplay if I'm gonna do pool stuff. I don't know how people mix it up like that. How do you put a wig on and like circle lenses and you're not gonna think you're gonna get some kind of eye infection with the water park? Oh.
That's the thing. You
chlorine
spend all this time making like a nice coordinated like swimsuit cosplay, and then you can only go in like because you have a wig and like you worked on it and you don't want it to be wet.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't as cool as it looks in the videos. Like, it's not practical.
Colossal,
not at all.
Colossal
Wait, Andrew, wait. They have a swim up bar, right? And I was like, "Ooh, a swim up bar in a jacuzzi. That's really cool." And I texted my mom about it because I was like, "This is cool. My mom will be impressed." And my mom texted back, "Everyone is peeing." I was like, "Oh,
dude, that was my first.
I was like,
thought, dude.
Mom, why do you gotta ruin the swim up bar for me?"
Yeah, it's like, called the weeb
what
soup.
What else are they doing? I was like, "Oh, that's disgusting."
Nice hot weeb soup.
Yeah, it's a weeb soup.
Lukewarm weeb soup.
Colossal Con is an interesting specimen, if you will, because it's one where you can see almost like the entirety of its trajectory upwards. I don't know when Colossal Con started, but I feel like it probably was around it probably wasn't much before 2010. I'm curious if I can quick look up how long it's been around. Let's see, AnimeCons.
2002 is what I'm saying.
Oh man, okay, it's been a long
20 years.
Okay, well then, damn, it's been around a lot longer than I thought. Well, it only came into like my knowledge of being a con purely from cosplay photos and cosplay music videos. If you talk to Axon, if you guys know who Axon is, he's kind of the almost to the grandfather of the cosplay music video, if you will.
That's right. Chill step all the way.
Yeah, he'll tell you.
Like one of the first people I started watching.
Yeah, he'll tell you that like it was a very intended thing what they were doing for like the first few Colossal Cons, like where they did those cosplay music videos to kind of appeal to people and show like, hey, this is an awesome con that you guys, you definitely want to be a part of this. So it's interesting that and it worked on me, it worked on you apparently, Aara, that
it did, and then I was like, ooh.
I didn't have nearly as negative.
Brings you back to the con. I don't know. CMVs are so cool.
I love them.
Good CMVs are cool.
Yes, good CMVs. But
I've got a
not
problem
ones without music.
Yeah, well, I'm not actually all that huge on CMVs, but that's a topic for another time.
Okay.
I've got opinions on CMVs, but I don't want to derail us too much. But that is an interesting thing because I don't think Colossal Con works without social media. Like
no.
That con doesn't explode in the way it does.
Yeah.
No, the reason it exploded was definitely the thing. Like YouTube.
Yeah.
People sharing
it was so
Instagram and everything. So
conceptually appealing, and I don't want to pretend it was like I fell prey to it because it is an enjoyable time. It's just that I don't think all of the things coupled together, cosplay, makeup, contact lenses, modeling, and then enjoying your time at a pool, I don't think all of that was vibing well with me. Um, I
Because
get
the
it. Like
TMZ made it look so easy.
yeah, like you take a picture of your Kalahari cup and your drink and your beverage, and like, you know, and you pretend you didn't pee in the pool, and then and then I don't know, like I was like I can't swim, so I had to end up changing it. It felt a little bit uncomfortably weird. Um, and then in addition, this is gonna sound bougie, but like people kept calling it like vacation con. It's the resort con, and the Kalahari kind of skeeves me out a little. So I was like, I was like, where do I like get my coffee? And like the shower's not very big. I was just kidding, but like, and I don't know. And then the line to Starbucks is so long. There's like the buffet where they feed you mac and cheese that's been out for 4 hours.
I honestly, Colossal Con, I thoroughly have had some of the most fun times at a con at Colossal Con Prime. Uh, one year, I think it was 2 years ago, was absolutely one of my favorite con experiences I've ever had at a con. But like most things, so much of a con's enjoyment is about who you're with, and a lot less about like what the con has to offer. Because like if you have great friends you're hanging out with the whole time at the con, like even if the con's kind of a shitty con, you're probably gonna have a great time anyways.
Also, what I was good for is like if you treat it like a vacation with cosplay,
Yeah.
like you just mostly treat it like a vacation. Your goal is to just like hang out and have fun. Like it's perfect.
Because I know a good chunk of people would like they just stay in like rent one of the villas, stay there the entire weekend, not leave, just essentially only shoot in the fields, never even really go to the water park, and just
and if you do go to the water park, it's just to hang out. It's not for
but
yeah.
I think it's a good spot for us to transition to kind of the future of cons, and kind of like what would we want to, for the New Year's New Decade resolution for cons.
New Year's resolution for con.
Yes, for cons. Not so what I mean by that is oh my god, I spelled conventions wrong, and it's been up there the whole time. No one's called me out. Wow.
Wait, really?
I spelled conventions. We'll ignore that. Yeah, we're just gonna go with cons of the future. That way we can ignore that.
I know that one
Cons
element
of the future.
of
We're spelling out. It's only 4 letters.
Yes.
I know one element of cons that, for me, in its absence, I feel like the air is stale, is music. Magfest, it's unbelievable. Like, just having those open mics and live music, impromptu or like improv bands just up and around, that is so cool. And that con has become my favorite and will continue to be my favorite because of that. It's I don't know, more music.
I think it's because it's less of a convention and it's festival.
Yeah, it's
that's what I mean. It's what it is. Music and gaming festival, but I mean that's what everyone's going just really to just have fun and do that. It's not like it's just not a normal con.
It's not. The music, the festival, dancing, just being able to unwind wherever you want for that is so cool. Also,
24-hour gaming room.
24 hours. So I think cons, if they want to be competitive, if they want to appeal, and if they want to be lucrative in this environment in which conventions are making money and also appearing in multitudes, they need to be 24 hours, at least for Saturday night or Friday night into Saturday.
Not like Kineticon kicking people out at 8:30 because they close at 9.
I don't know. I think that was like some legal thing. It's some legal rule thing
really?
at Hartford. Yeah, I forget that.
I thought that was the craziest thing. My first time going to Kineticon, it was 8:30. I was in the game room. They were like, Yeah, everybody has to leave. I'm like, wait,
Yeah, they've got some
wait,
law
what?
like related
Just
to
go
that in
in here.
Hartford. I'm making that up. I really don't know, but I thought it was like I think it was like an issue that like literally superseded the convention. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make sense because I mean, in reality, to me, I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why it's Saturday? Why are you closing this? It's
Yeah,
like
it was
prime
out.
time for
I'm
people to
pretty
just
sure
go
it
in
was out of
here and
their
have beer.
hands. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think the
Okay.
guys running it were like, we're gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
But MagFest being 24 hours, that's a must. I think it attracts a mature adult audience. And I say mature, like, you know, loosely. But it's just, I don't know. Like, I'm out until 5 a.m.
It's interesting that you say that because I feel like that's something that has always been the case for all the cons that I've ever attended. Like, they've always been 24/7, and like, so I'm not saying that's something that should end by any means, but I don't necessarily know if I'd categorize that in things that like. Yes, it's probably a must, but it's just such almost the norm in my at least convention going experience. I do think the music aspect is an interesting one because I feel like one of the huge draws that I had to going to different cons was, oh, what musical guests are being booked at
Yes.
these conventions?
I went to
And
Anime Boston, and yeah, they had the band that played Fighting Dreamers for Naruto, and we were all singing along, like Fighting
Flow.
Dreamers, and then like
Yeah.
flow, and then like Japanese gibberish. But it was so unbelievable. I was like crying because I was so
Well, that was-
excited to be in
Yeah.
that experience. So I don't
And
know.
that's one thing that changed a lot with AB too. They used that like that was one thing we really looked forward to because we haven't gone the past couple of years, but it was AB used to have like awesome musical guests.
Yeah, they had
And
flow, and I
that's
was
really
So the very first con I went to was Anime Central 2005, and the reason I went there was because I found out the Pillows were going to be guesting there.
yes,
And I was just like, I need to go. And ever since then, like one of the huge draws for me for conventions has been like, oh, what musical guest is being booked for this con? And I don't know what's happened over the past decade where that seems to have kind of dried up a little bit. Like I just don't like I look at the kind of bookings for so many cons and I'm like, who are you having for a musical guest? Do you have a musical guest? And
I'm trying to think what would have changed that too. I don't
it
Yeah.
know.
must be attendance, right? It's got to be.
The AB stayed the same. That was always
Yeah.
I don't
Attendance
know.
at AB flow was packed, like
Yeah.
wall to wall. And this was just I don't know. I think it was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what possibly could have changed that, but I do think that is
I don't know.
one thing that could definitely change because like I think all of us are at this point veteran weebs. We've been to our fair share of cons and so much of the standard con experience, I think it's not that it's stale per se, but it's like, man, we've done this and like what gets me to go to new and different cons is these unique experiences or these things that are out of the ordinary and that's why MagFest appealed so much to me and why I was so happy I was finally able to go because it is such a different con experience that going there it felt like no other con I've been to.
Yeah.
It was refreshing.
Yes.
I will touch on like because I see the chat's pretty lit talking about cosplay and photography having
Yes,
necessary
I think
spaces.
we should dig
I
into
want
that.
to yeah. My last final piece about guests is like there are still conventions that are very I guess like cognizant of what kind of guests will be memorable. I remember just last year, RIT got like the Studio Trigger animators, and this was before Promare came out, but it was like a year before Promare was released. So I got to like sit with the Studio Trigger animators in a tiny panel room, watch them draw, talk with them, and I don't know, they took pictures with me as No Known, and then that was it. But it was I don't know, Cool stuff. Okay, now we can talk about cosplay photography.
Oh, wait, I was gonna say something about the
Do
trigger
it, Erin.
people.
I'm
That's
sorry.
cool. All right, cool.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, my friends Callum and Andrew, they run this like really crappy panel at like local cons where they'll just like make like a meme panel about like a part of JoJo, and the trigger people saw them in their like shitty like garbage bag JoJo costumes, and they just pointed at them and were like, JoJo, and they took a picture of them and they were like, this is a highlight of our con, the trigger people.
I always go to Callum's comedic JoJo panels. That's another big thing that's fun at cons is like comedy panels.
Oh, yeah. Especially
so
local
good.
cons, like hokey, silly things that like
The dad panel at our local con.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cosplay.
Yes, cosplay. Just we don't say anything. Just the word cosplay.
Cosplay.
This is where like we slowly take a drag and we're like, cosplay was a mistake. No, just kidding.
I mean, not wrong.
I think one thing it's getting brought up in here, but I think cons need to like cosplay and cosplay photo shoots have exploded at like all cons. So I think something cons should do, which Sarah brought up, which West Coast cons do a lot to give you places to do photo shoots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think cons to continue being successful, I think that's something that a lot of them should adopt. I think that would really help them grow and keep them entertaining.
And not like hokey backdrops or anything. I think that there's something to be said for people wanting beautiful locations. Like going to the MGM, for example, to do photo shoots instead of just the Gaylord in pursuit of those beautiful settings. I think when they had their setup for Lunar New Year, people were in love with that. And I think cons could really sell badges by having dedicated cosplay photo shoot spaces.
Yeah, like good ones. 100%.
It's interesting because I absolutely agree with you. And it's kind of weird in a way because I feel like so many cons haven't figured out that are driven by cosplay and photo shoots almost haven't quite figured out why that is the way that it is. Like, I know like Colossal Con Prime, I think, is a great example of this, that has kind of, even though it was built off the backbone of this cosplaying experience there and being an excellent cosplay photography con, kind of fell apart because it turned its back on that aspect.
Completely.
Colossal Con East addressed it head on.
Yes.
Because when they had cosplayers disrespected and photographers curtailed so that they weren't able to shoot on, say, Sunday, immediately staff was like, we have your back. Like, we're not going to let this happen again. We know that you guys are the ones who deserve to be here and be able to shoot and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you saying, this is what you came for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Colossal Con East, like, they were with us on that.
Yeah,
That was cool.
I was actually pretty surprised because they didn't handle Prime very well.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
They've been hit or miss with how they handle public things.
You'd think they'd had enough learning opportunities that they would finally land on the right approach to it after all of it, but you never know. I've
never been to a convention and haven't cosplayed, and I've also never been to a convention and haven't bought a badge. I know that sounds silly, but I think there was this weird misconception that cosplayers ghosted at conventions. And yeah, probably a lot of people did. And
a lot of them do.
And it created this very disrespectful relationship between cosplayers and those putting on the event that would attract them and provide them with the space. And I've always wanted to, I guess, eliminate or eradicate that negative relationship because we buy badges. They give us the space. And even if you're cosplaying and you're not going to panels and stuff because it's not your thing, like whatever, just don't ghost. So I think that would be a good start, is like getting rid of that misconception of that stereotype.
Yeah, I'm extremely against ghosting. I used to run a con, but that's not like the only reason why. I think if you're ghosting, you're not paying into the con and you're taking up space, you're taking up parking, you're being in the lines, you're like in the way of other attendees and you're not paying back in. And it's like, if like, a significant portion of the people are ghosting the con, I feel like that really hurts it.
So
yeah, it's also like $25 for a local con is like
Yeah.
2 Starbucks orders.
I'm
And then $80 for something like MagFest, a music and gaming festival. Holy shit, that's the best event ever. You get live music 24 hours of the day. Like $80 is nothing.
So
You're paying way more for your
so
hotel and
so
costumes.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for you guys on this one, because
Sure.
I don't necessarily disagree with your point. However, I do think there's something that comes into play that makes me mildly disagree with it as well, which is to say that of my mindset, yes, I agree that you should be supporting the con. I really do believe that. But I'm also of the viewpoint of, if you are a con that has people who are not buying your badge, your con isn't interesting enough for people to buy your badge. It's a consumer problem. If people don't want to buy your product, like, it's not the people that are the problem. It's the product that's the problem.
Yeah.
And I can understand the disagreement there, and I can understand, like, we're very much grassroots communities, so I understand the idea of wanting to support and not wanting failure within the community, because, like, man, most cons are nonprofits that are here because we're fans of things and we want to continue having people be fans of things. But there reaches a point where, like, I feel like if you're ghosting, like you said, your $25 local convention is a whole different experience than ghosting your major con. And
Ghosting a $25 local convention is like a slap in the face to probably people you know directly that are putting a lot of heart and energy into it. Ghosting
because they really.
I had people brag to me about ghosting my own con, and I was like, hey.
It's just disrespectful. But I will say this, Andrew, and this is why I agree with you. $80 for a MagFest badge, I felt like it was the greatest steal in the world.
That is a literal
$75,
steal.
yeah, $75 for a Katsu badge. It was a painful purchase.
yes,
And
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
the
yeah,
same
absolutely.
price for the same venue, the same time of year. What's wrong with Katsu? Well, I have a list. You know,
Yeah.
like,
no, totally.
not putting any
Oh,
effort
yeah.
into their
No,
programming.
Katsu's got a lot of weak
No,
points.
not at
Yeah.
all.
And that is I think honestly the prime example of where this is a problem, and I think sometimes I want to dig into one thing. I think Eric said in the cast in the chat is ghosting like lobby conning. I think at this point, ghosting and lobby conning have become synonymous. They used to be separate terms, but they've kind of dissolved into one term.
I think it's essentially like the same.
Ghosting used to mean you entered the con space where you needed a badge without paying for a badge, and lobby conning used to mean staying at the con and not doing anything where you needed a badge, just being in the lobby,
Which is like Katsucon.
But I feel like
saying
ghosting and has changed to mean the same thing as lobby conning does. I don't think many people say ghosting and actually mean it with its original term.
So ghosting would be if I snuck into the dealer's hall past security without a badge.
Yes.
Lobby conning is where
Or into panels or something like that.
I'm like chilling in the lobby of a Marriott,
Yes.
like
Yes.
taking selfies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But that said, I don't think there's like the understanding of those differences is pretty like moot at this point. Like, people say ghosting, and 95% of the time they mean lobbycon. So I've just kind of given up on that discrepancy.
Yeah.
I like but I like the
They pretty much become
differentiation.
the same thing.
I definitely like the differentiating it in terms there, but at the same time, like, if people don't understand what I mean when I'm saying that, like, it's hard to have that conversation. So
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
get
good in
that.
terms of cons like Katsu, because like you can lobby con that. That's a lot easier to like literal lobby con. You just hang out in the atrium. And
But now you can't.
If you're
I
truly
know-
ghosting, you were also going into the con.
yes.
I know very
that,
few
so.
people that ghost it in the sense that you described it, where they actually like snuck through something. I feel like that's like a lot more rare.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if that's true. The reason why I say that is because I think under ghosting, it qualifies if you're lobby conning and then you ask a friend for their badge
Okay, yeah.
to go in for a little bit, because you're going into a badged area without buying a badge. Technically, you have a badge, but it's not yours. You didn't pay for it. Are you still ghosting?
Yeah,
It's
that's
up
fair.
for debate, but I kind of lean towards that's
Yeah,
still
right.
ghosting. So
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
people who, when they book their katsu room, they'll buy like half as many badges as people they have, and then they like share them. And
Yeah.
Just switch them up.
yeah,
yeah, and like I think Colossal Con is another great example. We talked about Katsu being a great example for being a hard
Colossal Con,
sell.
another perfect
Colossal
example.
Con is a con where like I would go and I actively had no interest in doing the con stuff.
Well, that's
Do you-
like literally like Colossal Con East.
Yeah.
Like the actual con, there was really not much of a reason.
There
to
wasn't anything there.
Yeah.
I bought this
There's
year.
not the dealers are tiny. Like
Yeah, it felt like a flea market for stuff I didn't want.
yeah,
So
yeah.
here's the
Or you can get it
question.
cheaper online.
Here's the
Do
question.
you want this
What
Sonic merch from 2005? Because you can get it for a low price of $45.
I mean, I want it, but I
$45.
think I'm unique in that.
you got a like what is it? Skank in a Sonic hat.
Oh, yeah, I do have a Sonic
Skanking,
hat.
what
but
was
yeah.
it?
Yeah, we do too.
So
We have Sonic
so
hats.
now I guess the question here is, well, what do you do if you're that con? If you're Colossal Con and you're, like I've said, this isn't necessarily a people problem, it's a product problem, and your product is not very good, but like your overall like the people are still coming because there's an appeal here. How do you change this? How do you fix this? And that's a hard question.
It is.
Honestly, like that's where I'm like, I'm really not sure what they can do.
I've had-
Especially with cons like that where so much is going on outside. mean-
They could do the photo booth stuff for cosplayers. If Colossal Con East knows that they are a cosplayer-driven convention and they only have panel rooms to discuss, like, I don't know, sci-fi anime of 2000s, the early 2000s history, and you're like, what?
So-
no?
What?
So
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you
What?
need to have events catered to cosplayers. Then you
I-
have to have space, photo rooms, whatever.
Yeah, I think where I would say that is that a con that is like Colossal Con, where it's so laser focused on cosplay, is shitty. Like setup, like photo shoot setup, doesn't cut it, because like I've got a waterfall over there
Yeah,
that I can
cheesy
go and
little
shoot
one.
by. Like,
True.
why am I gonna go to your setup to shoot?
At Colossal East? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
at
know.
Colossal East.
That one especially is so hard because like
So
there's so
but
many good locations.
but I think
And the convention rooms are so small.
yeah,
The
but I
convention
think
itself, the
I think
convention
there
area, yeah.
there is the potential is like, hey, if you know where your clientele's coming from, like, hey, let's build like a studio. Let's set up a studio at this convention. Transform like a large event space into an actual photo studio. Like, does that sound like an appealing
See,
thing?
Only
mean,
if you could have the space to work with photographers that you booked.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it gets weird.
No, I think that is
yeah,
entire.
well, that's where. Yeah.
There's that
Like,
one situation where a con tried to have like a setup
Yes,
photo shoot
yeah.
thing, and it got freaking weird.
Yeah,
it
and
exploded? Yeah, that was
and-
my local. That was not a good idea.
and what I will say with that is I don't mean like a photo setup like, oh, they've got a couple sick like seamless backdrops. I'm talking like they come in and actually set up like a photo studio where you've got like many different drops. You've got like
A
lights that
Japanese
are,
school classroom.
yeah, like these are legit setups,
Like
and then
an
maybe
actual small class.
yeah, and then like maybe lean into it, and like you actually have to have set booking times for this, and you know like
yeah, don't just have it like free range. 'cause
yeah,
then
yeah.
it's
I
gonna
think
be a
this is
mess.
a hard thing to do, but at the same time, I think it is an interesting thing to do, and I think you know, like if you include like an hour time slot at the studio setup with the purchasing of your badge, like
I would pay $65 for that.
it suddenly you go, okay, well, yeah, like that seems like an appealing thing.
Because I purchased the $65 badge and I was actually kind of mad about it.
Oh, totally.
Because there was nothing to do. And I checked the guidebook, like not the guidebook, but the schedule that they printed. I went to the rave and it was empty. There were like 8 people there. I tried. I like put in effort. I was like, all right, we're gonna do. We bought this badge. Let's get our money's worth.
Was that the one for Colossal East?
That was this past
There you go.
Colossal Con East
Yeah.
in
I think-
September.
I had actually paid extra for the photography there. I think it was like $80 or $90 or something like that. They ended up refunding me for me completely because I went to pick up the badge because I wasn't even going to the con. I just bought it because by the badge.
Yeah, me too.
And I went Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday to go pick it up. And the one guy they had there that you could get the photography badge from wasn't there every single time. They're like, yeah, you have
Oh
to
my
come back
God.
later. He's not here.
I'm glad they refunded it.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
I'm
And then
surprised they refunded it,
on
but I'm
Sunday,
glad they
I was
did.
like, I couldn't use this. Can I just have my money back? And they're like, yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I'm like,
Wow.
that was wild.
While I like the photo shoot idea, the main like issue that I have with it is like I don't know how big that space is going to be, and if you're going to book out like time slots for any length of time, I don't know that you can get enough cosplayers like through it for it to be something that like enough people at the con can actually experience.
Well, that's what I was just thinking because if you do like we were saying an hour for each person, that's
I'm
like
spitballing,
12 people
by
a
the way.
day.
Yeah.
15,
because
If it's
15
like
people
9
per.
a.m.
Yeah.
Because I know
Yeah.
Whatever.
at New York Comic Con they had when I went they had like VR experience things that you book time slots for, and it was like impossible to get in because you had to have like a set time slot. And I think it'd be something similar where
I'm sure it would be booked up.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't disagree with that, but I think that gives you a reason to buy a badge. I don't think it can be your only reason, but I think like the point in case is Ara, when you said you went to their rave and
it was empty.
Well, you're spending money to have a area for a rave, and like I think in a weird way, where I'd like to see cons move forward from here on out is like there's this history of cons where if you go to an anime con, it's got these things. The reason why Colossal Con East has a rave is because it's an anime con, and anime cons have raves, right? Like, regardless whether or not it's going to be a good, successful rave, almost is irrelevant. It's an anime con, it has a rave. Well, let's maybe peel that back a little bit and kind of feel less encumbered by the history of anime conventions.
Because that's almost like lost its luster in a way.
Yeah.
It's not really,
and like,
everyone's done it.
Yeah, and like if you look back like, okay, well, it was Colossal Con East 2019. Let's look through the history book, and there was 25 people that went to the rave over the course of the weekend. Maybe we don't have a rave. Maybe we reallocate things. Maybe we rethink.
I think it's just a lot of like any good thing that lasts a long time. It's just got to adjust with the time. And cosplay conventions, I always say cosplay conventions because it's like that's kind of what they've become.
Absolutely, some of these are so
much more
laser focused
on cosplay than
Can we have
anything else.
Panel room dedicated to learning TikTok dances and making cosplay TikToks so someone can show me how to make a TikTok, please?
Like seriously, I guarantee you, like people would be like, "Oh heck yeah, I want to go to that." Like,
someone teach me how to lip sync.
They just got to be with the time. Really focus on making like have cosplay workshops, have photography workshops, have cosplay armor workshops, or something like where people are like, "Oh, I can actually get a lot out of this."
Yeah.
Rather than just like you said, go to a Dragon Ball convention or a Dragon Ball panel from like way back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
As far as like cosplayer run content at cons, like I feel you on that. Like, because you were saying like, oh, like TikTok or like I've seen like social media marketing panels and stuff like that. I think stuff like that is like cool and interesting, and it's like newer things to talk about. But like when I go to cons, I find that most of the cosplay panels are like cosplay 101 or like sewing 101. So I think like maybe yeah, like there's cosplay content, but it's like the same like tired stuff, and it should be.
You gotta have
shit.
it more like focused on.
This
is specifically armor build.
I would not even be against.
Sewing.
I would not even be against the removal of the majority of panels from these events, because most of the time
I haven't gone to a panel in probably 4 years.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
I usually do like one per con.
Okay, I'm not saying like panels at all cons should be removed, but like understanding where your con, like what your con's focus is, what it's doing well. Maybe you should trim the fat, and like a lot of people don't go to panels anymore, and a lot of times like the stuff that is a panel is something that we can hop on YouTube and get a similar experience from like maybe like the top like 3 clicks on YouTube.
I'll never forget when I was scrolling through, and this was last year. I think Erin, I'm pretty sure I screenshotted it and sent it. I was laughing so hard.
I remember.
You know what I'm talking about. It was Katsucon's guidebook. And I don't mean to rag on Katsu. I love Katsu, but there was a panel, and I was like, hey, Erin, let's do panel nightlife, whatever, Saturday, hey. And it was like copyright laws 101. Yeah. And I was like, I screenshotted it, and I was like, time to get lit. Like copy striking, like YouTube videos, and then like cosplay or like merch content if it's like anime related. I was just like, what? Is this what it's come to?
That's what we've got.
That's what we've got now.
At CCE, they had a couple guests who were like they had Florka Cows, he draws like the little sock puppet comics, and they had like some YouTuber and like couple other people, and I went to their panels and the rooms were like empty. Like they were like guests that were there to like be guests, and there was like 4 people asking questions, and they were like entertaining, but I just think, you know, it's like sad sometimes. I don't know if they just didn't like get the word out or people just don't care. But it's always very disappointing.
People don't go to conventions to go to like college classes.
You don't say. But most of them started at colleges, so you tell me.
Hey, it's oh my god, it is though. Like
just
that
come
structure.
Full circle.
You know what? We need like one panel, and it's just a series of 15-minute lightning talks, and you gotta like speed run your topic of choice.
Do that at cosplay troop.
Yeah.
Let's go through each one of us. If there's any final thoughts that you have on where we'd like to see conventions go in the future, we kind of. I was planning to have us talk about more during this section, but there was just so much to dig into there that, of course, we burned through an entire hour on just this topic alone. I shouldn't be shocked.
Like 3 hours talking
about
that.
I shouldn't be shocked about it, but here we are. So any final thoughts on the future of cons from each one of you?
Cater to your clients. Cosplayers are bringing in money. Make sure you keep them happy. That sounds super demanding, seeing as I myself but really, you know, have fun. More music, more musical guests. That's my personal bias. And if you want your convention, you know, goers to buy your badge, make it worth their while. That's my final.
I think they need to do like more. Try harder to get feedback and actually act on that feedback, because I think like their cons are just kind of stagnant. They're just like the same thing.
Yeah.
And we're all here with
like data collection.
We want this, but
yeah. Data collection
no
is admirable, but like implementing what you have gathered from that data collection.
Yeah, actually changing.
Yeah.
I will say, as somebody who, I mean, it was a small con, so kind of different scenario.
Small
collected,
cons, yeah.
Yeah. Whenever we put out feedback forms, 90% of the answers were like, can you get this voice actor? He's my favorite voice actor, and it's really hyper specific thing, and also it would be like $10,000, and it was kind of like, all right, this isn't helpful like at all. Or like people complaining about things that aren't like changeable. Like you get like 2 comments where you're like, oh, that's a good idea, and then the rest you're like,
your staff member made me put my shoes on. Like,
yeah.
You're like, I'm sorry?
Somebody said that I was
I
mean,
get that.
so
Hey, I always leave you
yeah.
good feedback.
that's
So kind of my thoughts on things, and then once again, if for those of you who are listening who maybe are involved in cons and you're thinking like, oh yeah, this is all very easy to say. I think all of us understand like, yes, this is the stuff that we're saying and we're asking for out of the cons of the future. It's not easy stuff. If it was easy, I don't think we'd have to be saying it right now. You guys would have already done it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
It's not definitely not
yeah,
easy.
yeah. If coming up with the best new ways to run a con was something that was like easy and self-explanatory and like, oh yeah, of course we do that. Like, we wouldn't have to be talking about it right now. So like, I'd say like understand the fact that like, yeah, we're saying all of this stuff like it is easy, but I think we all know that none of this is easy. So just to clarify that. With that in mind, I think my biggest kind of wish for cons over the next decade is to start moving away from the formulas of cons of the past. And I don't mean that in a bad way. And especially I don't mean that in like, okay, if you're a big con, you're a Otakon, you're an ASEN, like you've got 20 years of incredible popularity at doing a con a specific way. There's always going to be a desire for that, and doing the traditional anime con way. I don't think that's going to fade. I think there will always be a desire for that. That said, I think with this explosion of cons we've had over the past decade, there are more and more cons, and having them all trying to fit into this same box doesn't work. And where we've seen some of the most interesting growth in cons has been from things like a Katsucon, things like a Colossal Con, where they've exploded based on not what the con's done, but purely kind of based on what the scenario allows them to do. And in that mindset, I'd like to see more cons kind of figure out why are people coming to this con and really lean into that and make it appealing for those people. Like if you're getting a type of clientele that are coming, think about what they want and continue to cater to that. Don't treat every anime con like it is the same anime con and catering to the same clientele. If you have a hyper specific crowd, I mean, hell, anime cons are pretty hyper specific already. Like, it's not going to hurt to try and understand your clientele even more and be more specific. So,
yeah. I just think it's funny because like even in this like hour-long conversation we've had, I find our conversations like echoed a lot of things that I've talked about, like in running even like this local thing. Like we were talking about like, oh, like if people aren't going to the rave, don't go. Like we had a year where we didn't do the rave because the year before no one cared. And then, talking about like doing like photo setups and stuff like that. Like we did that like on a small scale one year and tried it out and like people liked it. So I think like people want the same kind of things. And it's just funny hearing you guys like saying things that I've like discussed and like tried out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like finding out what actually like will hit what people are looking for.
Even just your attention to detail, like the decor you had for the Halloween event was like excellent. I know that sounds stupid, but so much of event going is visual, and I was able to take pictures like with your decorations, and I was like, hey, these look like really good. You have a lot of cool lights and stuff. It matters, like it does.
This is a fun trip to Walmart. Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. But when we come back, we're going to be switching gears, and we're going to be answering questions that you guys have in chat. So don't ask those questions now, because I'm not going to be at my computer, so I will not be able to see what you've asked, and I am not going to scroll back up. I may actually go to the bathroom. Can you believe that? I may be a human that needs to use the restroom on occasion. How about that?
Will this sound be off on the break?
No, they're gonna
I'm
be. They're
gonna
gonna
eat
hear me. They're gonna hear me
hot
pee.
fries.
I just got
No.
this mic and I don't know how to turn
the,
it off and I need
the
to
sound
pee.
will be off. We can all pee. It's gonna be great.
Cool.
No. And as always, if you're enjoying this dumb stream, consider giving a sub, especially if you have Twitch Prime, because that means you have, or Amazon Prime. That means you have one free sub per month to give to whichever streamer you like, and I'd love it if you'd consider us here. With that, think about those questions. We will be back in about 5 minutes. We will see you soon.
Streamer has a pee bottle.
God damn it.
Did you resume yet?
Yes. Yep. That's the first word that everyone heard.
You have been
First-
outed.
Oh no.
That's what everyone's hearing when we come back. Thanks.
You have been
Thanks
outed,
for that.
sir.
Well, here we are. That's why they call it streaming, guys. Well, we're gonna have some questions that you ask us, and we're gonna answer them, I think, or we're just gonna talk about pee bottles. I don't know. What even is this?
Not pee bottle.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to talk about pee bottles. So, welcome back to cosplay or Costog questions, not cosplay photo critique. That is a different thing.
We're here to critique your photos.
No, that's not what we're doing. We talked about this before stream. Okay, so
We're here to critique your raw images.
yeah. Okay, so the idea here is that you guys will ask us questions and we will answer them, and they can be very general, and like almost more topics than questions, but preferably have some sort of guidance to us as we can direct it. But the main thing here is make them like photography / cosplay related, at least adjacent.
There's already a really good one in chat.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on cosplay events
Yes.
outside of cons? And I am 400 out of 10 so in favor of those.
Go ahead, David. Dig into it.
Especially like it's what I wish I lived in an area where there was a little bit more cosplayers, but like having like a location shoot cosplay meetup. Like they kind of don't they do that? Is it Endicott City? I think they have that little meetup thing where everyone just goes and cosplay to hang out, and then also do at like a dope location. Like, so
I
it's
do
just
not
such
know.
a cool idea. Yeah, I know there's one.
I agree with you. My dream is like Airbnb house, tons of friends. We all book and pay our photographer friend, and we pay them, and then we shoot at like I don't know, like a state park, which I have the benefit of living in upstate New York, so it's entirely possible. But yeah, we shoot at a state park, or we shoot at like the Ithaca Gorges, and you get just these sick like fantasy nature shoots. That'd be really fun.
Hear me out. We make it a reality show.
Oh my God, we make it Total Trauma Island.
Oh my God.
Dude, it's like Survivor. It's like Survivor, but for cosplay.
If we
Cosplay
make
house.
this a reality show, I promise you, I would be a dope host. I would make you do such awful things. None of you would survive.
No,
Oh.
I mean, so thoughts on that? I think that idea, Aara, like that idea, renting out, Airbnb-ing a place, is a cool one. I don't know if that's in the spirit of the question though, because that's I think inherently a very small group of like hand-picked people, and I think this is the more of the like, hey, I want to have an open event to people. To do this kind of stuff, and I think they're awesome, and I want to continue to see more of them.
I think another thing that was also brought up in regards to this is like, how do you control? Like, he's saying he had an event where there's like over 10 people. How would you control that? I think one thing that is kind of, which is what Endicott City does. I think that's where it is. I don't know. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But they have like a set number of tickets you can get. And I think for something like this, that is kind of important, especially if you live in like when I have a cosplay meetup in like Central Park or something. Like there could easily be hundreds of people. That's just way too much to handle. So,
What
I
about,
mean,
and
it's,
maybe if it's going to be a photography focused thing,
I
not
know,
saying it
dude.
has
I'm
to be, but contracts.
Hmm.
okay, there we go. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I think that's the hard part is like the larger
Oh.
you
Oh,
geez.
It's too dark.
the larger your group goes, the like
Oh, wait.
harder it gets to control
There we
because
go.
I kind of think like the as things get bigger, the more chance you have of shitty people kind of showing up, and you know it's usually just like a few people that fuck it up for everyone else.
Mhm.
Obviously.
And that's kind of why you need kind of to set these rules up and have them in place. And man, for events like that, having 100+ people, that's hard. I don't even know if I have a good idea. I do think ticketing is a good way, and I think once you're starting to get 100+ people, I think you really start to need to be coordinating with your location and
For sure.
really start
If you have
figuring
100
out.
people
Yeah,
showing up at like
yeah,
a state park or something like that, that's
yeah.
definitely, especially if it's not a huge state park.
Yeah, I think a state park is maybe doable, but like when you say something like an arcade or something, it's just like, well, that's a
You just have 200 people show
Yeah.
up to like arcade with 6 machines.
You're gonna get
Also,
thrown out.
Mala makes a point that people that are not safe to be at the meetup could show up. So,
yes.
and
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you
absolutely.
and you wouldn't want to be like liable for that or responsible for that.
No, because in reality, like if you're setting it up, I mean, there's a lot of it gets really fishy if something does go wrong. Like you were kind of in charge of the event, so that can really you can be like
Yeah,
personal level.
you
So
you
it's
couldn't
like
have you really couldn't have minors at an event that you're responsible for or that's attached to you as the
yeah, I
organizer.
wouldn't. And definitely
Yeah, that's a hard one.
screening as much as you can.
Yeah.
If it's
There was an interesting con that used to happen in the Midwest called SoyCon, where it was just a guy that I think he like used to like run the. I don't even really understand the history behind it, but it turned into a fairly big thing, and I think he probably had around like 200 to 300 people attend, and he'd rent out a like a area at a local park where he'd just fully rent out the space, and he'd do everyone that came, it was a free event, but he'd still do ticketing for it just so that he could keep track of who was coming and who was going, just so like you know you had a good idea of like who was there, and if any problem, you know, you still had people signing like a sheet like, hey, here's our rules, so when people violate things, you just be like, hey, you need to get out of here.
yeah, I just really think you can't have it
Yeah,
like just openly public.
yeah,
There's got to be some kind of something that people have to read and agree to. It's just,
yes,
especially if it, I mean, especially if it's going to be more than like even more than 40 people, like that
yeah,
just gets that's a lot to handle. Because I threw one, I thought it was going to be like 60 people that showed up, and I was like so wildly overwhelmed.
oh, that
I mean,
sounds nuts.
that really, I mean, in reality, that's not a ton of people, but like when you're the only one that was kind of in charge of it, it just got really like.
Especially when it's
There's
photo
really some
shoot,
nasty stuff or something happens. Like,
especially when it's photo shoot based and you're heavily based off of like, well, if people are coming in and going, and like, well, we have 5 photographers and 30 cosplayers show up, like that can also be problematic.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But any other thoughts on this one, or are you guys ready to move on to the next question?
No, I think we pretty much touched on that. Like,
This one,
very important to have it.
this one is from Kengar M. Dongatron.
Oh boy.
Hopefully, I did not butcher that.
It's
What did you just say?
Dongatron.
Dongatron.
It's
Dong-
Dongatron.
Dongatron.
Did you say
Um,
Dongatron?
Yeah.
Dongatron.
Kengar M. Dongatron.
He did.
Hello, Kengar.
Which is it?
Dongatron.
All right, I'm gonna ask a boring one. Favorite con and why? Anyone want to
We
Magfest.
start?
talked about this earlier. It's like Magfest.
Yeah.
Honestly, Magfest. Yeah, Magfest.
hmm
I didn't go to Mag long
Favorite-
enough to judge it.
Aaron
as
was
being
there
my
for one
favorite.
day and
I
pulled
was-
like an all-nighter.
Yeah, it
I've
was
only
a
been once,
wacky
and I
time.
was like hands down.
I mean, I had a lot of fun for one day. I had the fun of multiple days.
I've only been to Mag the 1 year, and it was so good though. Like,
Mm-hmm.
man,
It's just unlike any other
yeah.
con.
yeah.
It's
So I say,
festival.
okay, how about this? Like besides Magfest,
Besides
Okay.
Magfest,
Besides
What is everyone's
Magfest,
favorite con?
YetiCon.
Oh, I wanna try
YetiCon
Yeti. I've heard
is
good things.
it's at the Blue Mountain Resort in Ontario, Canada.
Gorgeous.
And when I say when David says gorgeous, sincerely beautiful. Cute little village, tons to do. We went on a mountain coaster. We went zip lining. I guess this is another one of those cons that's an exception.
It's like a vacation con.
but I think that's the point. Is that
It's
these
an exception con.
Yeah,
it's
because-
exceptional. Yeah.
because when you
So-
get used to when you go to so many cons, what becomes your favorite are the cons that feel that they are the exception. So that makes sense.
It was the mountain coaster. It was the zip lining. They had an excellent rave in the perfectly sized venue that was not too vast, in which you had like negative space of awkward. It was compact. You could still breathe. Really, really great DJs. You can clearly tell I like dancing. Also, the panels were run by volunteers and staff. So you could go to friend panels, very funny and enjoyable events like cosplay court. Like a character goes on trial for something they've done wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
If you put
awesome.
like Light
I wanna do
Yagami on
that.
the stand, that shit's funny. Like it was great. And then they have Excellent Masquerade, which I did not attend, but I heard that it's highly competitive because the venue welcomes big builds for photography. Booking is seamless. I don't know. It's a great time. And even when you have so many photographers shooting at these locations, incredibly respectful, no overlap. You can wait for a space and it's accessible at a certain point.
It's because there's so many
Yeah.
spots.
People talk. They talk to each other. They communicate. They mingle. I made new friends. They have meetups. And I don't know. It's stunning. It really is. The village. It's outdoor, indoor. There are so many restaurants. You could eat any kind of food that you want. Italian, Japanese, Mexican, like whatever. So much good food. And it's Canadian prices if you're coming from the States. Listen,
It's
like
a little bit cheaper.
dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Such a good time.
I
And
have
a
a
public
lot
service
of
announcement.
favorites that rank like similarly, but they're just like completely different kinds of experiences. Like there's like cons that are way more like cosplay oriented and like hang out with friends for
Mhm.
me, like Katsu. But like content wise, like New York Comic Con, like PAX East have things that I like actually want to see, but they suck.
Oh yeah,
for being a cosplayer.
totally.
Mobbed and you're walking like a ton. And like at PAX East, I went last year and I didn't even cosplay because it's like you're wearing like VR headsets and crap. You don't want to like take your wig off.
There's so much you want to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
cosplay's definitely not a focus for me.
Um,
I think at PAX East.
As far as like classic cosplay anime like chill vibe goes, I know it's technically local, but Toricon for me at RIT in upstate New York, Toricon is like great vibes all around, super fun. I don't know. I always bring out like the vintage anime costumes, like Cowboy Bebop, Naruto, whatever. I just have a good time. It's great.
I think there's
It's
something
awesome
to
for a
be.
local con.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
there's
so
something
good.
to be said about your home con.
Yeah.
And it just like Anime Central, I adore that con. It's
Mhm.
maybe not the best con. Like in a lot of ways I'm actually bored with that con, but like it just like so many of my friends go to that con every year. It's always like a reunion for old con
Yes.
friends. I'm constantly running into people. Like I know it like the back of my hand that like even though like when people ask me like, "Oh, is Anime Central a good con? Should I go to it?" that have never been, and I'm like, maybe. Like I am hesitant because
Yeah.
my
Torcon
view of it
fun.
is so
I went
skewed.
20 Yeah.
But like at the same time, it's usually one of my favorite times of the year is going to that con. So
Yeah. Torcon's a good time because I live 20 minutes away, but I get to see, like you said, old faces, whatever. And it's student run, and for me, that's like so impressive that like college kids, while being full time enrolled
Yeah.
and trying to get good grades, can pull together this excellent, like well manicured event that actually runs more smoothly than like Katsucon badge pickup.
Yeah, dude, my roommate Sally is a con chair. Well, not my roommate anymore, but she was my roommate for a year. Sally, she was a con chair. So it was fun because we had Torcon con chair and Snowfest con chair in the same house. And
Yeah,
we discussed all the RIT con nonsense. There
Students, like you know, you were a student.
were
Like
6 of us.
you
Like,
guys,
yeah.
you bust butt, and these events turn out so awesome. So local cons can be a really good time when you have the right people invested.
Totally.
let's move on. Alligator asks this question, which is, as photographers in the cosplay scene, how do you feel about the rise of cosplayers self-shooting? As a cosplayer, are you interested in self-shooting? If so, why?
I'm all about it. They serve totally different purposes. Like, I think your like nice shoot that you pay for with a photographer is like a totally different experience than like shooting yourself. But if you're trying to crank out content, yeah, it's like a lot more affordable for sure. Or even just not like not even like a full photo shoot. I just have like a tripod and a cell phone attachment thing, and I take pictures of my bathroom. And like I know that's not like a photo, but it's like it's different than like holding up your phone and taking like a mirror selfie. You can actually like pose or something, and I think stuff like that is like awesome.
Show us your Junko poses. Anyway, yeah, I don't even compare the two. I don't think you can conflate them, and I think it would do a disservice to both to try to conflate them. I think that self-shooting has its appeal because it's instant, it's intimate, and you have full control. And all three of those things are appealing if you're a content creator. You manage your own schedule. If you want to hammer out your edits and like get that content right out there the next day for the like game drop release date, that's your call. I don't know. Self-shooting's really cool. I think it's an art that I have never been able to master because that setup, the lighting, especially artificial, everything you need to make it clean and appealing and not sketchy and is difficult. It's tricky. It's tricky. Like you get self-shooting and you're like, oh man, like dude, vacuum your rug, and then like, you know what I mean? Like it's not. You think about everything.
Clone stamp it out. No, just clone stamp out the stuff.
Oh, that too.
I love watching videos of cosplayers show their whole like shooting setup and then being like, oh yeah, maybe one day I'll do that, but right now I'm just gonna watch you do it because that looks awesome.
Yeah, I think self-shooting's incredible. I would never compare it to booking a photographer, and I also think that trying to do so is a little bit like in photographers. I see frequently this comes up when the debate about paying a photographer is brought up in the Twitter sphere, and I try to avoid this discussion because it gives me a brain aneurysm. You can't compare self-shooting to booking a professional artist with a vision and heart and soul behind their work. You just, they're two totally different ball games.
Yeah.
And I think when people respond to, should I pay my photographer with, well, how about you self-shoot? And because they themselves are self-shooting, like, your photographer friends are going to see it and they're going to be like, hey man, like, I don't know why it has to be I don't know why they have to compete. They can coexist in entirely different years, and they are unrelated.
I just want to interject. I love Sarah's comment of "Hi, I love you."
Oh, I didn't read it.
That.
So
Sorry, go.
when I think of self-shooting, I like self-shooting because I do not feel exposed, and I don't just mean like, oh, I'm wearing a revealing outfit. I don't want, I mean like I have the full control over my costume malfunctions in the moment. I can pose my face and my body, shot by shot, frame by frame,
You don't have to
exactly
worry about
how I
anything.
want
It's
it.
just you. You're ultimately so much more comfortable shooting, especially things like.
Yeah, and if I have the skill and the technology to set up a successful self shoot, even the audience, your audience will find an appeal to that. If you noticed, especially on Instagram and Twitter, I guess the only two spheres that really matter for social media right now, mirror selfies, self shooting, even just like cell phone photos are incredibly well received because there is that direct audience to cosplayer interaction. They know that they are in contact with the content creator, and there isn't this like barrier of a manicured, artistically developed photo taken by a photographer between you and your audience. I think that interaction on Instagram and Twitter becomes a lot more limited and a lot less casual and like relaxed when you have a professionally produced photo from a shoot with an artist. I noticed that comments decrease. I noticed that engagement has become a little bit stuffier. And that's just because it's an art piece, right? So people are trying to like handle it with finesse. But when you self shoot, all of that is stripped away. So I think there's perks to that too.
Aara and I've had this conversation like countless times over just like messaging each other and being like, wow, this bathroom mirror selfie of mine did like 10 times better than this like really nice photo shoot picture that I paid for. But of course, like, that's not the only reason you're doing it.
It's so hit or miss with
that's
that
become the norm now. Like it was something I just had to like as a photographer get over because like pretty much every time I've spent like 2 hours working on a photo and the cosplayers posted it, it's gotten less likes than their like quick selfie of it.
Other things,
yeah, and I'm just like, as the photographer side of things, like it used to bother me a little bit more, but like when you understand the reasoning, like kind of conceptually think as to why this is happening, it doesn't necessarily bother me less. It almost like is like weirdly like, oh, that's like so weird, but like it helps me understand it at least.
I think if I were to self shoot, like I said, it's because I'm producing content at rapid speed and I want it in my hands immediately. And maybe there is not an accessible photographer or someone within my budget. Also something I want to emphasize that it's not it's not like this photographer is expensive because I can't afford them. Like, no, this photographer is vastly charging and they're incredibly inexpensive. Just because they're not within my budget doesn't mean they are expensive. But still, like maybe I don't have $100 to drop on a shoot because I'm trying to be financially responsible. It's a tight month, whatever. Then I'll self shoot, and that's like totally appropriate.
Yeah, and I think there can be a great enjoyment that comes out of self shooting. Like, self shooting can be arguably more fulfilling than shooting with a photographer, because like especially if you yourself view yourself as an artist with the camera, you can so tightly control how you're trying to convey a message in a photo and the artistic intent of a photo, and that can be something that like working with a photographer, you will just never be able to capture that full experience of being the one and only creative driving force of the entire process,
which is very similar to commissions. You may not have the skill to produce like a gala wig from Promare on your own, those gravity defying spikes coupled with an undercut. So you might commission someone to do it for you, recognizing the value of that product and paying for it. But maybe you need to learn to do it yourself. And there is something infinitely rewarding about teaching yourself to construct that like high-end wig and have it be all your own work. I think that self-shooting is similar. I will say though that self-shooting, I don't think, and correct, I mean, I'm kind of speaking out my butt, but like I mean, I do that a lot. But I will say this, like, I don't know if I've witnessed self-shooting ever reach the compositional level or the visions that a photographer shot on location shoot can achieve.
It's so hard.
They're very different, obviously,
I
but I can usually tell. Like, I
I
can usually
haven't
look at
seen
the
it in cosplay photography, but there are some incredible self shooters outside of cosplay photography.
Oh,
I was gonna
absolutely.
say
I follow a bunch of
yeah.
on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Okay.
My one of my old roommates was a
But-
photography major, and she self shot a lot, and they were like beautiful. But again, not a cosplayer,
Yeah.
Okay.
and someone who went to school for that.
Yeah.
So
I want
with
to
time, like it's going to improve for
Yeah.
sure. But
I want to dig into something that Eric Jaws Photo said. I guess to add to Alligator's question, what's your thoughts on hiring a cosplayer who's a photographer versus a cosplayer who versus a cosplay photographer?
Hang on. Could you repeat that?
What's your thoughts on hiring a cosplayer who's a photographer versus a cosplay photographer? I think maybe the
photographer who doesn't cosplay
think-
versus a photographer who does.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think what the meat of the question there is, because I don't think if there's a cosplayer who's a photographer, they're a cosplay photographer. Like yeah, so it's just whether they cosplay or not.
I mean, I
If
think it really depends on like
yeah,
how good they are in the end. Like, I mean, you can be a cosplay photographer that doesn't cosplay. That's
I
excellent.
don't even know how to phrase this question.
here's
Yeah,
here's what
it's an interesting thing to compare. Sorry,
No, I talk a lot. I talk way too much. Just like, yeah. Okay. What I would like to pay attention to with non-cosplayers that are photographers is the attention to like weird stuff only cosplayers would maybe notice. Okay, not only cosplayers. Whatever. I don't know what I'm saying. Safety pins, for example. If I've got a fucking safety pin on my collar, like I obviously didn't want that there. I was rushing. Katsu. A cosplayer who is also a photographer might see that and be like, I got you. And like, boom, stamp that out. But a non-cosplaying photographer might not actually be inspecting your seams and getting rid of the fray of your unfinished edge. You know what I mean?
But I think that's also dependent on the amount of experience that
what
Mm-hmm.
I want to say on this topic is all things photo wise skill being equal. If the photographer who cosplays and the photographer who doesn't cosplay, if their photography skills are equal, the photographer who cosplays is going to be a better cosplay photographer. They just are, because they have experience on both sides.
Yeah.
So like that's just by nature. They're going to understand things. Like I know now you're never going to get into that situation where the skills are equal. But I have found that when I see cosplayers who get into photography after cosplaying, they're able to pick things up and have a strong handle on how to create a good photo, I think, way faster than someone just picking up a camera at the same time without cosplaying. Like,
I love what Allison said about vision.
Mhm.
It's so true. Cosplayer photographers have a creative eye for, I don't know, like uniquely striking photos almost. Not saying that non-cosplayers don't or anything like that. I just think like when a cosplayer picks up a camera, they've, I guess, consumed so much anime and video games and like spent so much time looking at art for their costume that they kind of know what they want out of that shot with that character.
yeah.
Which is also why self-shooting is so excellent. For that same reason. They know what they want.
yeah.
It's I've been so impressed by, like, I've have a handful of cosplay friends who didn't really shoot photos at all, and then they picked up a camera because they wanted to shoot their friends cosplaying, or what have you there. And it's been Ara, you've fallen into this category where
What?
like of
If I pick up a camera randomly,
yeah, of like you've done edits and stuff of things, and like let's be real,
Yeah.
like that level wouldn't be there if you hadn't been cosplaying. Like there's just like an inherent level that you've learned, like whether you paid attention to this or not, you've picked up all these things about how to create good photos without ever learning how to take good photos. It's this
and it's not necessarily from cosplaying. It's from working with cosplay photography.
that
Like,
that
I
is
remember
also
when
true.
I-
Yes.
I
Yeah.
remember when I edited my Not the Brave photos that Anthony took on my camera, and you and Sarah both messaged me, and you were both like, I literally checked to see who did these photos, and it was you guys. That's because I was imitating the editing, the color grading of Sarah and you. So you guys were like, I love these. And I was like, good, because I'm literally copying. I have like multiple windows of your work open to see like what exactly I'm going for here. So I was like, you guys are patting yourselves on the back, but that's okay. So I was imitating cosplay photography more than I was using my vision as a cosplayer. But I can see how they overlap.
Yeah, totally. I
will say this.
Go ahead.
Sarah is a cosplayer and a photographer, as we know.
Mhm.
And I, as a cosplayer, noticed that she retouches my makeup so well. Like when she retouched, she took a photo of me like holding Anthony's head as Sothis and my eyes were closed. And I did not recall doing my like eyeshadow with such Gucci golden colors. That was all Sarah. I was like, yo, she gave me shimmer. Like she burned and dodged. Like it was great.
Speaking of Sarah, she made a great comment here, which is I think that cosplay photography, there are a lot more hobbyist photogs and not artists, and I think that's absolutely true. And I think that's true on the flip side when cosplayers who are coming into this, they tend to be more on the artist side of things, and that's why I think they have an easier time adapting to it. And I also think this points to something that I've believed for a long time, which is to say technical knowledge of a camera is important, but not that important. And an artistic eye is going to take you so much further than knowing what ISO to set your camera to.
I don't even know what that means, and I still take photos.
Exactly.
Because there's some people I know that their photos are incredible, and they're just like, I literally have no idea what I'm doing technically, and I'm like, well, it looks amazing.
Point and shoot and hope.
If you can set your camera, if you can set your camera to auto, but like pose someone well and make a decent composition, you're gonna go way further than someone who's shooting in manual and knows exactly what setting they want to put things in, but then like doesn't know how to pose anyone and their composition is crappy.
That's why we all love those cell phone cameras.
Yeah, not to like dunk on anyone, but I've had shoots like that where they know how to use the camera, but
totally.
The angle of the posing.
Sarah made a good point. She did say that, and I think Mallow was saying that it too. It's a struggle for me to read and listen at the same time. It's really not about like cosplay photographer versus cosplayer photographer or anything like that. Yeah. Sarah said even her attention to detail with makeup is just retouching as like professionally. And if you have someone who is trained to do it, they have the eye for it, and it's completely unrelated to what they're doing with their other hobbies.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is really interesting that I want to say is based on Erin, what you said is selfies. I think selfies and cosplayers learn how to get this angle and like figure out what the lighting is on their selfies so that their selfies look so good. And man, if that doesn't help them transition to photography, I don't know what does. Like, man, that I think is such a huge aspect to cosplayers transitioning to photography is learning, oh, this selfie I took and I like shooting it here because the light's great in the selfie, and it's like, hey, maybe that's something that works.
Yeah, and we were talking about like decades. Yeah, we were talking about like decades earlier, and that's like one thing that I noticed changed a lot over the last like decade is like, you know, the camera phone quality is so much better now, and like with the rise of like social media and everything, like, you know, like cameras now they have like portrait mode. I've had like friends take like, you know, a picture of them sitting on a bench at a con in like portrait mode, and I'm like, this is beautiful. And like, I don't know, all my like old photos of my costumes from like, you know, like 7 years ago, they're like grainy and terrible, and now it's like you can get a really nice photo just on your phone.
I had a friend take a selfie in portrait mode of them as Link at the Katsukan harbor with the sunset behind them. And I was like, holy shit, this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
There was like lens flare like coming across their like eye. I was just like, all right, whatever. Nuts. I have selfies from 2009 of me holding my dad's like the family camera, like the Canon that you
I
buy to
have
go on
stuff like
vacation
that
in
too.
Disney. And I had like I used to take mirror selfies with my dad's bulky vacation Canon. That's how I used to do things. Nuts.
Vacation Canon.
That's what I called it because
No,
that's my hand.
that's perfect.
I feel like all families have that, the vacation camera Canon thing,
For
whatever.
sure.
Okay, let's transition to this next question here. By the way, people, keep on questioning in the chat so I can actually add them to the list of questions, because otherwise we're gonna run out here and not have any more questions, and then we're gonna be like,
That's what you think, except I'm pretty sure we can
oh,
keep
we could
going.
bullshit for a long time. That's fine. I'm just saying, if people want us to answer questions, don't think you have to wait till we're done with the topic to ask another question. Please just keep them flowing in. So J Laughs asks, are there any pieces of newer technology, example 3D printing, VR, more powerful software, that you feel would be worthwhile to pursue in the purpose of crafting, photography, etc.?
I'm big amounts of dumb. I'm like just figuring it out.
I missed that question.
Like-
Sorry.
Can I have you? Can I have you repeat
I
that?
will
I'm sorry.
repeat the question. Are there any pieces of newer technology, for example, 3D printing, VR, more powerful software, etc., that you feel would be worthwhile to pursue for the purpose of crafting, photography, etc.?
I have a good friend who has a 3D printer, and constantly people in cosplay troop like commission him for like pieces of their costume because it's like a local person. It's not like, you know, you're like ordering somebody online to do it. You just like bump it out in a day.
From the photographer standpoint, honestly, I don't really think there's any newer technology that I think is going to help all that much.
Well, that's kind of like plateaued in a way.
Yeah, frankly, I think if you have Photoshop, you can pretty much do anything. Like,
I wish someone would
there's
slide
some things that
in
make it
for
easier,
self-shooting.
but
what?
I'll slide in.
I wish someone-
important.
Go ahead, Ara.
I wish someone would slide in and say something about self-shooting with that, though. Like any lights or like setups you recommend for like tech or like stuff like that for self-shooting to
I think
improve. I
newer
never
cameras-
self-shot, and I admire the hell out of
Newer
self-shooting, 'cause
cameras
I
have made it so much easier if you can essentially switch to Wi-Fi shooting and then
So great.
have like something where you're like eye detecting, so you don't need to focus, like it's auto focusing on your face. There's so much that just saves so many problems, because for professional photos, because I didn't have anyone around me to help me out with this, I've done some self shooting, and the hardest part of it was purely just focusing. Like I had my phone connected to Wi-Fi, but like, how the hell am I focusing on myself? It was so hard. So I think newer cameras with their face detect and eye detect autofocuses are real lifesavers when it comes to
for self shooting. Absolutely,
Yeah.
that's gonna make life so much easier.
Yeah. Trying to think. If there's any other things. I mean, honestly,
I mean, for like crafting in cosplay, like 3D printers. I mean, yeah, that's gonna make your life a heck of a lot easier.
yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Keep questions coming, people. Man, I don't know. Like, I feel like technology in photography is not a limiter at all. There's
No,
so
that's
many
where it comes
different
down to,
ways.
like,
Go ahead, David.
I was gonna say that's where again it comes down to like, vision. Like, have it like odds are with what's out there, you're able. Like you said, if you have Photoshop, and there's even other like third-party softwares, like you can make it happen.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the biggest thing with like in terms of photography, there's ways to make things easier for yourself. I don't think there's a
Yeah.
way like there like I feel like 3D printing in terms of cosplay that unlocks new potential. Like there's things that you just flat out like couldn't do or would have been incredibly hard to do without a
Cricut
3D print.
machines too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
But in terms of cosplay photography, I just don't see an equivalent like that where it's just like, well,
No.
I flat out couldn't do this, but now that I have this thing,
Like a tiny thing, I guess that's new. Photoshop now has like auto subject select, which is pretty awesome.
oh, there's so many things that make life
Just little,
easier,
little
but
tiny things like that,
Yeah.
but there's nothing like groundbreaking.
honestly, I think the biggest thing that's game changer for photography is if you're looking to go down this path that is lights. Like there's things that you just can't do without lighting gear, that getting lighting gear can like just absolutely change how your photos look.
Absolutely, if you can start using gels and
um,
stuff like that.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay. Did anyone else ask a question? Did I miss anything? I don't think so. I know.
Copy and
I
paste your
see.
questions if we missed it.
Yeah, I know. Alligator asked "ooh woo," which I don't have much of a response to.
I do see one here that yes, photographers, which is the most difficult cosplay you've had to photograph,
Or
or most difficult cosplay you've done or had to photograph. So
Okay.
it has
Oh
to
yeah,
be-
yeah. I see that one from Hatter22. What's the most difficult cosplay you've done or had to photograph? Okay. I paste that in.
So let the cosplayer start because I feel like that's probably easier.
Yeah.
Don't make me start. I'm not as much of a crafter as you are.
are you looking at me? I can't tell.
I'm looking at you. We're in different screen placement on here than we are on the.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The hardest cosplay I've ever made?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I black out and then it's just done.
And then
No, I don't know.
just all of a sudden,
I don't know if hard's the right word. I embrace challenges and then just kind of move on from there. So, trying to think. Harder. I mean, like obviously people have seen like my Midna helm, but I don't. It's done and I did it, so I don't know. I can tell you what I think would be hard that I can't do.
Which is
well, like what is something that you like ran into most issues with?
okay. Well, Aara Miss Perfect over here
No,
has never run into
that's not-
troubles.
I think
She's
what I'm realizing
flown
is
through
I
every
haven't
problem.
I haven't embraced difficulty enough. As in, I've been playing it safe for a long time.
Okay. So I have a kind of an answer to this question, which is to say, I've found that the hardest cosplays for me to shoot and edit have been the cosplays that I have been the most excited to shoot.
She gets so nitpicky.
Any
That's me. I mean,
yeah.
it's just like
anytime I'm like, holy crap, I'm in love with this cosplay, I'm so excited to shoot it, I'm so excited, this has been a cosplay I've been looking forward to shooting, and then I'm just like suddenly I have expectations coming into a shoot. Like most shoots I kind of for the most part I'm honestly winging them. I enjoy that style, but then once I get into these shoots where it's like, holy crap, this is something that I love and I really want to do it justice, winging it at the shoot doesn't feel like it's good enough. And like I always am like measuring this up to like my weird vision of things where I'm like, this isn't as good as I want it to be, or like I'm not doing this justice, or I'm not living up to the passion I have for this thing, which is and I'm not even necessarily like that might not even be the case. Like I might actually have turned out a good product, but like, man, like it's hard not for me at least to get in my head about those specific things. Especially about things where I'm super passionate about the subject I'm shooting.
I think I'm the same way. I think firstly, I realized I'm a coward when it comes to choosing costumes because I haven't picked anything that has been impossible, which I should try.
Kid coward.
I'm a coward. But secondly, I think when I've been pursuing costumes I care about, that's when they become most challenging. So Imp Midna from Twilight Princess has been my most challenging, not because the crafting has been an impossible pursuit, but my investment has been daunting. So I've just been so in love with this character and this game and this costume that it took me a year and a half to 2 years to finish her. I spent my time, I had to take mental breaks so that I could revive what was like dying inside me as I messed things up. So yeah, Medna definitely. And then I used Yaya, I patterned Juri Han's bodysuit from Street Fighter V from scratch using like a lot of computer paper and duct tape. And then I cut it out of Yaya Han's stretch leather when it had just released. So this was this is as people were discovering, I mean, that, you know, clips were ideal for this specific fabric. I was using like painter's tape and clips to like hold everything together for this very tightly fit bodysuit. Like painter's tape where the clips wouldn't work, and I was like, because you can't use pins in stretch pleather, it punctures it. So that was pretty much a nightmare. But other than that, yeah.
I'm definitely not anywhere near as crazy as a crafter as you. That's something I'm looking to like work on. But when I made Succubus Catherine from Catherine, that was probably last year for Katsucon, that was like a bigger project for me, and there were a lot of parts of it that were super messy. I made drill curls for the wig, and that was like hours of me with my hands covered in glue trying to get like hair to behave on something, and that was like a disaster. It was like not coming off my hands for a very long time. And then I had to stand in a bodysuit and get stripes painted on me, and I think I stood for 6 hours or something and couldn't like sit down.
Oh, geez.
Didn't you get like the stripes on your skin too?
Oh yeah, no, I peeled it off of me. I had my boyfriend at the time. I wore I had to wear like underwear underneath it that I didn't care about because I knew it was gonna get like covered in paint. So yeah, like we like peeled it off of me after it was like dry enough to not mess it up, and I was like all stripes. I had to like shower immediately. It was the time. Would not recommend doing that.
Yeah. David, did you have any specific answer?
No,
to that?
I mean basically what you had said was kind of what I was going to go for, because there's no like specific shoot I've done that was more difficult than the other. It's more so just me hyper focusing on some things, and that just makes it difficult sometimes to get through sets and stuff like that. Way too focused on the smallest things. Taking breaks is important, regardless. I mean, that's kind of evident with all this.
Okay, let's move on to this question from Il Majil, which is, do you try to turn your cosplay style based on what gets good numbers? For instance, if particular cosplay gets a lot of attention, then do you try to make cosplays that would appeal to the same audience?
I do not cosplay for any sort of income, so I don't need to cater my like cosplay choices to an audience. If I did base my income on cosplay, then yes, I would definitely try to choose at least. I like split up, like maybe 1/3 or maybe 50% of my costume choices would be to draw in or continue to like boost my audience so that I could continue to make money. I don't think there's a problem with that. But no, right now I'm just a hobby cosplayer, so I literally watch an anime or play a video game and I'm like, that character has so much energy. I want to be that character, and then I just so I've been anything from like scrappy 12-year-old boys to like, goblins. That's my new thing. But like I said, I'm just a hobby cosplayer, so I don't need to worry about audience.
Yeah, for me, it's like yes and no, because like I'm the same way. Like, it's just a hobby. I'm not, I'm not like a huge like page, or I'm not like making money off of it. But there's definitely been characters where I pick them because of like hype. Like a lot of things that people call like bandwagon cosplays. I have done them. Like I did Bowsette when that was a thing. I did like the Wendy's girl and like the fast food thing was a thing. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna get a bunch of followers. It was more like, this is something that people are like talking about right now, and my friends will like think it's funny if I do this, and then like maybe some people online will too. So I've definitely picked things that were like, oh, this will be popular, but not like I'm like trying to get something out of it. More like I'm also excited about it, and I think the hype is like fun, and that's like part of it for me.
Community participation can be super fun regardless of like the numbers you draw in.
Yeah.
If this was a source of income for me though, I think I would be very conscious, just because it's who I am as a person, of what was attracting attention and things like that. And I'd probably like okay, so I cosplayed Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it was like, god, she's my girl. I was like, finally, this is a costume that was a long time coming. I think people have been asking me to cosplay Toph for like the past fucking 15 years. So I did it, and I was like, I'm so excited. But it made the most numbers. I didn't even do a top 9 this year because every single photo was Toph. Every single one. So I didn't do a top 9 because there wasn't really a point. But I also didn't stress that Toph was my most popular costume. I was just like, that's pretty cool. Avatar's a dope show. It's like the best show ever. I've watched it probably 8 times. Anyway, I am cosplaying another Toph outfit, probably ASAP, unrelated to the numbers, though. You know what I mean? I guess.
Yeah.
I did a top 9, and every single one, for the most part, was me in my bathroom in front of my white shower curtain, and it was a side-by-side of like a cartoon character and me, and those
because
were the ones
Instagram
that dominated. Yeah.
Y'all really like those side-by-sides. They give me anxiety.
Yeah, for me, I pretty much like I made a conscious effort to kind of say screw it to numbers. That said, I don't. It's not like I don't pay attention to them. Like,
it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Completely not.
But like even for the sake of like, oh well, like I've got some new photos of this cosplay, and maybe I'll hold on to post these until this new game's coming out. I'm gonna post it around when this comes out, like, because I know it's gonna get more attention then. Because like I mean, well, I can't say numbers are my driving force. Like, if I have the opportunity to easily get more numbers from photos, like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
So
but also,
I was just gonna. Sorry.
No,
I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say, like, I'm still gonna do the costumes that I want to do, but if I post a photo of one and it does horrible, like, I'll still have the photos for me and I'll enjoy them, but I might just like post them all in like one post instead of like stretching it out if I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna do well. But like it doesn't affect like which costumes I'm gonna make, but it might affect my like posting schedule, or if I'm gonna take more pictures of something.
I'll put it this way: for me, I still post skiing and snowboarding photos, even though I know like 95% of the people that have followed me have no interest in that, but it's my fucking feed, so I'm posting my skiing and snowboarding photos.
Yeah.
That's
I think I've talked
about it. It's just like cater to yourself.
Yeah,
is important now. It's something I kind of realized this year.
If it's not your like full-time job, then who cares?
Yeah. Then it's like it's a lot of unneeded stress, honestly.
If it was my full-time job, I would honestly.
There's no perfect formula. Like, a lot of it is like timing, luck. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. If it was my full-time job and that was my primary source of income, I would have a lot of fun learning how to cater to my audience. I just think that would be appealing to me, and I would enjoy like pleasing them, because that's my personality. But at this point, like when I cosplay or cos test even a boy character, I will lose right off the bat upwards of 20 followers, 30
God.
followers.
Oh God.
But it doesn't necessarily. I kind of, it's like a joke with my friends. I'm like, I'm gonna post a boy photo. Let's see what cowards run. They're afraid of my big dick energy.
Oh my God. Okay, so we got one more question here. Actually, there's a couple, but this is the next one up, and this one is from some weirdo named Nick Laura, I think. I don't know. I've never heard of her before. What are your thoughts on cosplay photographers who don't return photos to paying clients when they're still updating / uploading new content or photos from someone else? How should a cosplayer approach that problem in a non-offensive way?
I mean, well, yeah, this one's kind of.
Wait, I'm so sorry. It was a very long question, so I need to hear it again.
I stopped paying attention halfway through it.
No, my fucking brain.
What are your thoughts on cosplay photographers who don't return photos to paying clients when they're still uploading / updating new content or photos from someone else? How should a cosplayer approach that problem in a non-offensive way? Burn them. That's not offensive,
this one's
right?
tough because, like, especially like if it like a free shoot, obviously.
Another
Another
thing.
thing. What?
Malice says
Shit
in their
bed,
backyard.
in the backyard. They said bed. I was like, damn.
Shit in their bed. Wow.
Like if you're paying someone for photos and it's been a long time and they're uploading photos from like new shoots, it's like honestly they're disrespecting the heck out of you doing that.
Yeah,
so it's like
it's super offensive.
It's like you got to message them. Don't really. I mean, obviously, don't message them and just be a douchebag. I mean, you can if you want. Like
being a douchebag's not back is not probably going to get you what you want, though. That's the thing. It might make you feel good, but
make a good way to approach it. But it's like 100% message them. I mean, just find a way to just be like, hey, where are my photos? I mean, if it gets to the point, just be like, I see you're doing shoots and releasing other stuff. It's just like,
it's the unfortunate thing. Yeah, the unfortunate thing about it is, responding the way that you want to respond to them about it. Usually, like, if you want to get the photos back, like, it's unfortunate, but you need to tiptoe around the subject at least to start, because going bitch mode on them like right away, unfortunately, is probably not going to get you the results you're looking for.
And don't make it public yet.
Yes.
Communicate with them privately and professionally as a client would to, the person they've hired. I don't think that call out posts will solve anything. And also it might be stuck. Like, they might be posting things that they were like, literally, I spent like 15 minutes editing this photo. It was already all set to go, but I really wanted like yours to look good. Your wig was doing a thing and it was messy, and I've been spending so much time retouching your hair. Like, I swear I'm doing it. It's taking longer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, just message.
Yeah, there reaches a point in that discourse where, like, yes, they should have gotten their photos back to you. Yes, they should have messaged you about them taking longer. Like, all of those things are absolutely true. But, like, that's not where we are. And trying to... like, if your goal is to get photos back, this is probably your best... choice. If you're over the photos, then I still think your best bet is not to like so the cosplay and cosplay photography community has a lot of drama in it, and I don't think that adding to that drama is ever very helpful.
And it doesn't make anybody look good.
Yeah.
No.
Also,
You're the
you
one doing
can
it, and
you can communicate privately with them. Eventually, get the
absolutely
photos,
communication is
or
number one.
perhaps
Like,
even like a 50% refund, whatever within the contract. Which again, like book people that are well reviewed, all that stuff. And then just don't book them again and let your friends know. I call them the secret reviews, and it's when before you book someone, like everyone with like close to outer circle, and you just say, hey, I saw so and so posted in an ad, have you worked with them? Or hey, I saw you have worked with so and so, what was that like? And it's stuff that like people are really honest and candid about, and you would include your experience with poor turnaround time in your secret review, and just say like, hey, this person was incredible, affordable, blah blah blah, loved working with them. I'm gonna warn you though, and then just insert your warnings there. So those exist.
yeah, I mean, I guess it really all depends on how much it's worth it to you. If it's worth going through the trouble, I mean, it's kind of touchy because everyone's different. Everyone's going to react differently.
Yeah,
So.
it's a careful thing. Tread lightly. No.
I saw.
Tread lightly. I mean, like you
Yeah,
said, kind of
and
like
be
have
realistic.
those secret
Mhm.
reviews always like get word of mouth. Person that's how you can avoid
Yeah.
it. But I mean, if you're
Yeah.
in the situation, yeah, just
Like
tread
I
lightly.
did see someone make a call out post on an unnamed website that they hadn't gotten their photos back in 4 weeks, and I was like, did this beget a call out like post? Like 4 weeks, man. Like, that's not that long. I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
I would also like, honestly, with most photographers at this point, I would have like, if you're signing a contract with them, their contract should have some sort of deadline. If it doesn't, I would absolutely ask them to put it on it, especially if they have a return policy. Like, hey, I'm getting these photos back within a month, and you're like, sign a contract and you're reading through things and you're just like, hey, I noticed here that it doesn't have anything in your contract about this. Can we add that? Like, if they're
I
telling
think
you,
that's
yeah,
definitely something to ask a photographer if you're booking them. Just be like, hey, what's your average return time?
I think most reputable photographers will have that in their contract, and will have the terms of their failure to fulfill the contract listed in the contract, because otherwise their contracts are real shitty contract. Um. Do. Trying to think.
I think we side railed
Yeah.
into like how to avoid it, but like really to get back to like how to deal with it. I mean, we kind of touched on all you can do. You just gotta
I will
definitely message them, but
yeah, I'll bring into Brebs asks, is there an industry standard for what to expect from photographers or how long it takes to deliver the pictures?
not right now.
No, the cosplay
There's really no
photography
standards right
is
now.
its own thing.
It's in its infancy in all reality.
Part of my problem with cosplay photography and why I've tried to essentially be like a little bit of a voice here in it is that, like, man, there isn't like any like, there are almost zero standards in cosplay photography, and that is very difficult and has caused problems over time. I like, one of my things was like, I've constantly found that I think people have switched over to trying to take page shoots way too early. I think that's something that happens a lot, where people start charging without understand what comes with charging. And
Yeah.
the problem is that cosplay photography is an inherently hobby based thing, and almost no one is getting into cosplay photography without already being heavily interested in cons or cosplay photography. And chances are most people that have gotten good at cosplay photography got there because they were already passionate about cosplay photography. So it's like a weirdly hyper specific scene of photography where like you're not here because of the money at all. Like you're here because you loved this thing already.
You're not here to make this your full time.
So because of that, there's no, when you ask for like industry standards, there's like almost no industry here. So like
just ask how long it's gonna take.
Yeah.
Just ask.
And ask other people about that. Like that's the biggest thing is building a network up and asking people, and be comfortable asking people that maybe you only are acquaintances with, or maybe don't even know, but have worked with someone before. Like most of the time people will be happy to tell you like, oh, I had a great experience with this cosplay photographer, or I don't know. But
I have an awesome list of people you should definitely work with.
Just ask Aara.
Just ask
if
me.
if you have a question about cosplay photographers, just email Aara at aara@aara.com.
Aara@aara.com.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing. Just book. I mean, right now it's really all. There's no standard when it comes to anything. When it comes to return time, when it comes to quality, when it comes to cost, like it's all over the place. It's all what people rightfully value themselves at, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
word of mouth.
to kind of base that off of there is lots of people. There's like this thought of like what's cheap cosplay photography and what's expensive. Man, most of the, like, if you think any of this cosplay photography is expensive, this isn't even remotely expensive photography.
Cosplay photography.
And that's what I'm saying. Like it's at its
Yeah.
like
It's ludicrously inexpensive. It's
Yeah.
to the point where it's such a steal.
yeah.
I would recommend, if you're, and this is not for anyone watching this, obviously, but I guess before anybody complains about cosplay photography pricing, I would definitely recommend looking at portrait photography outside of the hobby. Take a look at how much you would pay for an engagement photo shoot. Take a look at how much people are charging in high-end areas for senior photos.
Or just look at headshots. Like there's a couple headshot photographers. They're like premier, but I mean those get up to almost $2,000 a photo. Like
Yeah.
in reality, like
I paid.
I know that's way on the other end, but just an example.
Well, back in 2012, I almost outed myself. Back a while ago, I did pay $1,000 for like school photos, like for the yearbook.
I mean, yeah.
So,
Yep.
Well,
you know,
I mean
because,
that's reality. Like
you wanted to capture that moment in time for yourself, so it's
Mhm.
worth the investment.
and you want it to look real good. Yeah, I mean, you
But yeah,
get what you pay
engagement
for.
photos. I want to spend thousands of dollars for an engagement photo shoot because you want to capture that moment. It's so special. The same thing applies to
Mhm.
cosplay photography. If I have personally invested hundreds of hours into this build and tons of money, then I include a cosplay photo shoot in my budget for that costume. I want to capture that memory. I want to display that build in the best and most artistic way possible with an artist, a professional that will achieve that vision with me. And it's totally worth the investment. There's nothing more rewarding than wearing this costume you've poured blood, sweat, and tears into, working with an artist and getting these photos back like, holy shit, like this is unreal. It's like, seriously, like you just are filled with elation that you've achieved this together with another artist.
Yeah. And not every costume like even like warrants like a really like nice like high quality like pay money for a photo shoot. So I think that's like another thing is a lot of people like, you know, even like their more simple costumes, they expect like, oh, I'm doing a photo shoot with this, like I want photos of it, and then they're like, well, these are so expensive, and I'm like, if it's not worth it to you, maybe like that costume isn't, you know, worth $100 shoot to you. Maybe it's worth like, you know, a $20 shoot.
Self-shooting.
Yeah.
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 So Sothis, I invested a lot of time and money into, but more importantly, I thought she was a really pretty costume. Like she's a goddess in the game, and her design is super Art Nouveau. So I booked Sarah and Andrew and Angelo, and so I booked several photographers for her because I loved that costume and I wanted her to be displayed artistically.
In different ways. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
I think that about is good on that. And with that, we've reached the end of this show. Um, Thank you all for joining us tonight, and a huge thank you to my panel of guests, Aara Lee, David Sohno, and Erin Mac Daddy. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and being on here. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and keep up with your work? Aara, start us off.
Aara Lee on everything.
All right.
AARALEE.
Erin?
Erin Mac Daddy. I've got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, sort of YouTube. Not much going on there yet, but yeah, same thing everywhere.
And David?
which is at David Sohno everywhere, unless for on Instagram, that's more my portrait fashion stuff. Sohno Photos is for cosplay. But yeah.
Awesome. And then you guys probably know how to find me, but if you don't, Vontography on Facebook, Vontog on, oh my goodness.
I hear
Got some
meowing.
meows.
That is your cat.
Oh man.
She's my baby.
Vontog on Instagram, and obviously Vontography here on the Twitch. Don't know when the next stream is going to be in terms of like a next full Q&A or critique. Sarah will not be back on until after KatsuCon, so probably going to need to wait for that. That said, I stream every Tuesdays. Those are pretty much guaranteed. So if you're looking to hang out again with me, I will be streaming something next Tuesday. It might be some editing. It might be video game playing. I don't know, but I'll be streaming on Tuesday. So come hang out. If you've been enjoying the show, please consider subscribing, or if you have the capability, giving a donation. If you have Amazon Prime, that means you have Twitch Prime, which gives you 1 free sub per month to give to whichever streamer you'd like. So if you haven't used that, please, for the love of God, use it. If not here somewhere. And then if you're subbed, you can, it may not be a doggo, but we use this emote for any animals that show up on a stream, which is the Vontog doggo emote, which is Sororia Days cuddling a doggo.
The corgi.
Yes. So it's one of the best emotes. No questions asked. But if you don't have the means to sub or donate right now, absolutely totally understand that. What I do ask is if you're enjoying that, just let someone know about it. Share it with your friends. Share it with someone you think might find this interesting. We all know how hard it is to grow in this area, this era of social media. So telling people makes life a lot easier. I normally don't raid after these streams because most of the people that are on that I would want to raid to aren't on, but we're actually going to raid someone after this stream. So I'm going to send you all over to a guy named Sunflows. He is a video game streamer who has like one of the best personalities I've ever seen. Super lovely guy. Once you get over there, you'll know why I sent you guys all over there. He's just a absolutely gem of a human being. So I'm going to send you guys over to them. And as always, think about what you put out into the world. Make it a better place. Bye, everyone.